Good morning, everyone. Fellas.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Sir.
All
Blessed to
right,
be
so
able to see another week.
another
True.
week. Let's jump right into it because we got a lot of information to get through. And once again, I'm gonna fly through because I think it's more important that we discuss. The purpose of the beginning is just to share the information so everybody can be on the same page, learn something, and know what we're talking about. All right. So, just to our mission, like if you ever go on our website just to see what we do, sometimes we say controversial things because we prioritize breaking the cycle. So in order to break the cycle, you got to move a little different, which means you got to know something a little different, right? So our primary mission overall is to number one, distract you from your current story, right? You got to get distracted from it. It only gets you your current results, right? Also, number two, dismantle your current belief systems. A lot of what we believe isn't true. Not necessarily meaning that they're lies, but it's only a partial truth. Like there's usually another layer to things we're going through, to things we're looking at. And then most importantly, we want to inspire you to change your mind because you can't change your life until you change your mind. But just like in the car, if you got a GPS towards Dallas, you're not going to go to Houston until you switch, until you make the decision to switch. All right. So as we go through these conversations, we distract, we dismantle, and inspire. All right. So as usual, we appreciate that you follow us, but we appreciate it so much more when you share, because our mission is to serve, not just you and the people that you know, and the people they know, and the people they know, and the people they know. So it's very, very important that you like, you comment, you share, and please interact. Like we don't want this to just be class. Like this is what we learning and here. It's a lot better when we have bilateral communication where both sides are communicating. I often see numbers on the screen, people watching, but y'all not really rapping. Not that you have to, but it makes the conversation a lot more powerful. Game 7 Academy, we do tutoring, we do mentoring. That's with adults, that's with college students, that's with the youngest kid we ever worked with was second graders. It's like 9-year-olds, 10-year-olds. So from age 10 up to the 50 so far. So anybody, we can help you out. And of course, shop with us, game7shop.com. T-shirts, hoodies, sweaters, hats, jackets, and everything else. Masks, it's all there. Game7shop.com. And every Saturday morning, for now, we do free workouts at 8 o'clock in the morning. We make the post on Wednesday or Thursday, DM for the link, come get workouts. We work with student athletes. Student athletes are athletes in school, students in school who play sports. But we also believe that you should always be a student athlete. You know, don't stop when you take the pads off at school. Don't stop when you're not on the court anymore at school. You need to always take care of your mind, always take care of your body. So we also do personal training through our Goal Line program. You're always a student athlete. So today we're going to talk about why. All right, we're going to talk about why. Because one of our principles that we believe is once you know why, you'll figure out how. Once you know why, you'll figure out how. All right. And y'all, my fault, I didn't mean that. Pizzle and Jess, keep me posted on the backstage because I can't see it.
Bet I got you.
Okay.
Come on.
G said backstage.
All right.
There goes one.
I know. As soon as I said something, let me mess up the presentation and everything. All right, hold on. We having technical difficulties today, y'all. All right, here we go.
Probably the weather.
Could be. Yeah,
That
y'all
one.
getting some good snow?
All right. So why? Why? Once you know why, you'll figure out how. So level one. Level one of why is survival. You have a job to make money. You're focused on paying your bills, and some people stop here, especially in our community, right? That's
Mm.
like a big thing to say in the house. You don't pay the bills, right? You need to go get a job. You need to be able to pay your bills. And that'd be like it. If you pay the bills, you a god. You know, don't mess with that. He pay all the bills, right? Or I need a man that's gonna pay my bills. It's like that's like the ultimate thing that you can have. It's like the ultimate achievement, right? That's level one, survival. You have a job to make money. You're focused on paying your bills. Oh, we teach all of our young men to get into college. We got a 99% acceptance rate, and after that, they have an 80% hiring rate, right? You grew up, you hit it, you college educated, you got a master's degree, you have a great paying job, you can pay your bills, you get promoted, you move from your apartment to a 4-bedroom house, right? So your overall went up, but your net stayed the same, right? We usually are wired just to be able to pay our bills and stay at that level. But that's level one. That's called survival. Level two. Level two is a big killer for us too. Is status. I don't just have a job. I have a good job, right? I don't just got a car. I have a nice car. I don't live in the project building. My home is a standalone, right? My kids don't go to public school. They go to private school, right? Everybody come on over to my house in the basement. I got a bar, right? Or come to my big backyard. I got a pool. All of these nice things. I got a timeshare, right? Where we can all go and get a taste of the luxury life for 48 hours, but you pay for it for 365 days a year, right? This is all about keeping up with the Joneses. This is the Instagram, taking the money with all of your bread. Yeah, I got 10 G's, but that's every single dollar you got. And 8,000 of that is the re-up. That's going right back across down the block for the other day, But that status, when people reach this level, this is normally where they settle down. You don't just have a job, you got a nice job. When your family comes to your house, your mouth got the nice house. You feel me? He got a basement, or he got a nice car. You feel me? Or I got these things. Status. This is where a lot of people settle. We made it, especially in our community. Like just to get out the projects, like you got space. Air, you're not like the lack of noise. Like after me living in the city for so long, when I moved to the suburbs in October, I told you it was like tripping me out. Like it was too quiet. Like it was really weird. Like I wasn't at peace with not being in the chaos. And I adjusted probably like after a month, but little things, right? That could have been the end for me. I got status. Level three, never level up. This is kind of I think where we are, more or less. But freedom. You got a 6-figure job, but it's not enough. Now, that's something we'll get there after. But me, Just, G, I know Pizzle, you was working, so you couldn't even join the conversation. But that's something we was talking about on Friday. So yo, we got these dope jobs that people would kill for, and it's cool. I'm not going to disrespect the job, but I think I'm ready to get past it. Like it's not what we thought. We know that we have more. You want the kind of money that gives you breathing room, aka you're not living the forbidden check to check, right? You don't have to be in the office every day. Oh, I'll work, but just let me get 2 days from home, right? Even when we go back, like everybody want to go back, but that's going to be super hard to go back. No matter if you like being at home or not. You want to live in a community where your kids can roam free. That's a big one, but it's really not that big a deal. Like when you're in that environment, like it sucks for you to know that your kid has to catch the bus to school and then walk, and they may not make it because a little 14-year-old is shooting at a 30-year-old, and your little 7-year-old crossing the street and where you're supposed to cross it, and he get hit. Right? That's a feeling that I would never ever want to face. Right? So I said once again, it's a big feeling for us to get out of the environment. But there's so much more. Oh, I want to travel the world, Traveling is dope, but it's not the end. And freedom is somewhat selfish because you may feel empty once you obtain it. You're successful, but you're not happy, so you're not fulfilled. So your contentment can lead to frustration. Right? Speaking for myself, like if I were to stay at this point career-wise for the rest of my life, I don't know what kind of person I would be. I'd be a very angry person, very frustrated. And then also too, because this person, at least people like us that come from the communities we come from, we're often looked at as like the one, because we've already made it. Like we've been exposed to things that a lot of us who come from where we come from haven't been exposed to. And it's like you gotta kind of, you don't have to, but like there's this certain image you gotta keep up because you made it, but inside you're not cool with where you at. So it's like conflicting between what you feel and what you think you should feel based off of what everybody else is giving you. But level 4, speaking for myself, this is definitely where I'm at right now, and that's purpose, right? Purpose is beyond all that other stuff. It's about realizing why you were born and pushing the limits to be the greatest version of yourself. That's why I text y'all on the call, not every day, but very often. Everything matters. Everything matters. To be the greatest version of yourself, everything you have to do has to be at your 100%. It's based off of how you want to be remembered and how you want to make an impact, right? And operating at this level is driven off of history, like how we talk about breaking the cycle, art experiences, the things that we've been through, serving others. That's what we're doing now. That's what we do every day. Change, impact, and enlightenment, right? Having that moment to where you realizing like this is one big game and you can be a player in it. Black, white, Indian, Asian, Pacific Islander, whatever you are, right? Very few people reach this level due to fear, being stuck in survival mode, having too many distractions, and not prioritizing education over entertainment. Like you're just in the cycle. You're revolving Monday through Friday, right? And then you reset the revolution on Saturday and Sunday for your whole life, more or less, right? You're revolving instead of evolving. Revolving instead of evolving. So for a recap, level 1, survival. You're paying the bills, right? You're taking care of business. Level 2 is status, right? You're taking care of business, you're paying the bills, and it look kind of good. Freedom, you're doing that on a 6-figure level, right? It look good, you're paying the bills, got a nice little family, nice little crib, you mastered the work game or the self-employed game, whatever your beginning phases of your career was, right? You're free, but you're not happy, you're not fulfilled. And purpose is when you're free, but now you have a direction after you've made it, right? You did the thing that everybody else did, but now for your own man or your own woman, you have your own mission to chase. All right. So now I'm making this more personable. Me and Jess was presented with some pretty powerful information this week from another one of our friends who works, I think, in multiple school systems, but it was something that they discussed in their group and he shared with us. And I did some research to take it down to a deeper level. So the median income in Washington, D.C. as of yesterday. Now, I don't know if this includes 2021 data or the end of 2020. So the Black community in D.C., the DMV is the best place to live for African American in this country, generally speaking. Not necessarily the city, but this area. 46,201 median household income, the whole house, right? 46,201. On the other side, the average white family in the city, 143, 150. 4, 8, 12, 16. So like 300% difference, more or less. 46,200, 143,000. Right? That's the difference in our nation's capital. Right? We're the most educated, most affluent, most experienced, generally speaking, African Americans are in the country. Not just the city, but this area, this tri-state. All right. So why? Why? Right? According to the things that we can control. Right? I know there's a system. I know there's history. I know about slavery. I know about Jim Crow. I know about prejudice. I know about being judgmental. I know about all of those kind of things. But why? According to the things that we can control. All right. So first off, and this is all data. This ain't no opinion. Right? And the source is DC Health Matters and Nielsen's Consumer Report. And y'all can go look it up. So Black consumers are the #1 ethnic group in watching live TV, playing video games, smartphone media consumption, and streaming audio. Ain't nothing wrong with those things, right? Ain't nothing wrong with those things. Because there's also a lot of black people that make money from doing these kind of things, right? It's a two-way street. But we're number one in more or less being entertained, right? We're number one in being entertained. And like we just said like I just said a couple minutes ago, it's very, very important that when you're enlightened, you know to choose education over entertainment, right? The top 20 advertisers spend on media focus on African Americans has increased from 3.34 billion in 2011 to 3.86 in 2019, almost a 16% increase. And I'm willing to bet that it's increased again with the pandemic, because entertainment is through the roof right now. Although it's not in a theater or a live setting, but Netflix, Amazon orders, like all of that stuff is through the roof, right? And if we're the number one consumers, I'm sure that the marketing has increased during the pandemic. Next, this is a quote from the Senior VP of Community Alliances and Consumer Engagement at Nielsen's. At 47.8 million strong, in a buying power that's on par with many countries' GDP, more or less like the financial status of a country, African Americans continue to outpace spending nationally. So just the black people in this country, we outspend countries. Countries, right? Slight relatable tangent. Just on Friday, I think, I should know her name, but I do not. Walgreens CEO was named as a black woman, right? She has a name. I'm not disrespecting her. I just don't know it, right? A black woman. And within the black community, black women are the number one spenders. So this is hypothetical, and it could be hindsight being 2020. But just imagine, like if black women see another woman successful, they just like her. You feel me? So just imagine if that person, whoever that woman is, we all want to invest in Walgreens. Just how Wall Street Bets did GameStop and whatever else they did, right? Instead of going to buy that purse, buy those shoes, right? Finesse the market. Find a legal way to do it. The Black Women's Discord, the Black Women's Group Chat, the Black Women's Community, right? There's legal ways to do it. Don't tell them to buy. You just drop the signal, right? It just takes one leader to be able to do that, right? So instead of spending, but we'll get there later, right? But number one buying power, more than countries, entire countries. The spending by black consumers is especially influenced by advertising. The report found with 42% more likely than the rest of the country to respond to ads on mobile, the black community. We're 42% more likely, right? So when they get scrolling through, the main target is us. The main target is us, and we fall victim to it. I'm not saying like ads are catered to you. Like sometimes you'll see something like, oh, I've been looking for this and I found it. Yes. Or like you want to get a gift or something. Yeah, sometimes you got to buy stuff. But a lot of this is based off of impulse. Right? And that's why paying the bills is such a big thing in our community, because we often have the funds, but we don't allocate them the right way, right? Because of impulse decisions, right? We need to look cool. We need to drop that 250 on the J's and nobody else got that. Another quote from Mrs. Grace: 52% of African Americans find in-store shopping relaxing, compared with 26% of the total population. And 55% of black consumers say they enjoy wandering the store looking for new interesting products. When shopping, African Americans are more influenced than the total population by store staff and advertising and merchandising. And the data is there. 34% for store staff, 28% for advertising, 27% for merchandising. All right, so shopping is really like therapy. Think like for a woman's heart, take her shopping. For a man's heart, feed him. Like we're spending our money. We're putting bad fuel into our body. That's the way to our heart, generally speaking, right? And lastly, the ability to build wealth. The ability to build wealth depends on the degree of control that we have with our spending. So after we pay income and other taxes, which is a whole game in itself, right? That you really don't have to pay at a major level once you figure out what boxes to check off, what conversations to have, what companies to pay. And for necessities such as housing, food, and transportation, we have something left over, not just to spend, but for emergency savings, for retirement savings, for investing, whether that's stocks or real estate, for having a business and getting other assets, right? So we have to control what we do with our money and not just spend it because it feels good. All right. So let's review that. So problem, right? I don't want to pump you with problems. I just wanted to share that we got a big problem, right? Just look at those numbers. Just look at those numbers. And that 143 is not that much. You feel me? Like multiple of us on the call got that in our household. You feel me? It's not that much. And as we say, we ain't nothing. Like we worked hard, but like we're not where we know that where we're gifted to be, right? So we got a lot of work to do. But that's not that much, especially in this city. Like ain't nowhere else in the country, well, except maybe a couple other cities, you can make up to 120 as a teacher. You know, the money being thrown out. It's expensive to live here, yes, but the bread is here. So what's the solution? All right. So here's the solution. I kind of already said it. Stop spending useless time and money. We're the number one entertained people. Number one. We spend our money because it feels good. We want to look good. Gotta have the latest clothes, the latest sneakers, the latest dress. And I also didn't put this part there because I didn't want to go there, but it also said the biggest thing we spend bread on in our community is beauty. All right. So I didn't know if that would be received well or what it really meant. Because I mean, that's not really a bad thing. But still, that was the biggest thing that we consume is beauty products, right? And just from being with my girl, a lot of that stuff is not run by black people. It's run by white people. You know, that's the thing that we buy the most. So stop spending useless time and money. Okay, stop spending useless time and money. And yes, that's a typo. And start investing. I need to fix that. Start investing. Start investing productive time and money. I'm about to fix that. And that is wrong.
Can I speak? So while you're in the midst of that, can I just speak very, very quickly to the beauty comment?
Mm-hmm.
When we talk about finding solutions, one of the best ways to find solutions is identifying a root cause. I've learned that in processing with helping young people in my educational career, and also, in my studies of being a social worker and going through my social work program is, until you really identify a root cause of an issue, you're literally just putting band-aids on things, for a lack of better terms. And it speaks volumes to me that Black women have such high consumption for beauty. Number one, because, honestly speaking, from our generation, I don't believe that we all do a very good job of uplifting Black women and making them know, not feel, but know their beauty, knowing their position, knowing their power, knowing that, it's an amazing thing to be a person that's been given the position to be able to provide life, right? Now, that's a completely, that's a one perspective response, but I do believe that the more that people, or at least, boyfriends, husbands, male friends continue to make that a norm, which I do believe is changing, right? I believe like people within our generation and younger are doing better with giving people flowers and identifying women's not just abilities, but sometimes their superiority, when compared to men in many avenues of life. I think that will wind up being much more of a solution, or helping us to step in forward in terms of solution to women feeling like that. But then I also hear the devil's advocate where There is nothing wrong with making yourself look good. I mean, that may or may not just be a part of our culture, right? We express how we feel and how we look. And it doesn't always have to point to a deficiency. It could just be a difference of cultural norms. What feedback you guys have?
I think I was multitasking, so I didn't catch it all. But I think one of the keys to that is this is kind of, it might sound like out of left field, but our mental health. Like what I heard from what you said, like a lot of that was insecurities on both sides. And if you look, I know we got totally different cultures, but like if you look at like a African woman, like whatever your general picture of, and an American woman, there's a lot less like product on one side than the other, right? Now ain't no girl, like they need products and they gotta do their thing. But I don't think it has to be as big as it is. And a lot of that is because, like you said, what other people feel. And then also, too, they'll start our own companies. Like I saw T was watching something, it was this big deal about they showed their board or something, and it was all white women. And everybody was causing a big deal. Like, so what? It's their company. They do what they want. Like, all y'all are nail techs. You feel me? Get you an LLC or whatever. All join up. Get on your clubhouse with your big group. Yo, this is what we doing. You feel me? And if you know what's going on, it could be one name. Each person is their own corporation. So you really got your own business, but you taking it over. Like we don't have to follow them with everything that they do. Like we allow them. Like a lot of these things are not, they're not forcing us to do these things, right? We allow them to take our culture and profit off of it because we don't do it ourselves. Just like how Master P always says, like we got the skills, but it's like the business acumen, but we just don't go learn it. Like I had a conversation with my grandma yesterday. I was like, yo, like how come, and it's my fault, I guess. I don't talk to her as much as I should, just so she knows. But it was just so much she didn't know. Like she didn't know that there was any black billionaires in America right now, right? She didn't know that there was so many black millionaires, right? She knew nothing about the community that I lived in. She didn't know like it's a regular thing for a black person to live in $1 million home. And we talked about like the food she puts into her body and all of these different things, right? Now she's an old lady. Like she really more or less kind of had excuses when she was younger because you had to be willing to die to go read a book. You feel me? Or just to walk and get some water. You feel me? But just through times, like nobody at least took the responsibility to learn the game. So a lot of these things where we become victims are not really things we're mandated to do. It's just we don't take the initiative to go find out what we got to find out. Rosalind Brewer, that's the Walgreens lady, I'm assuming. Okay, my fault, Miss Brewer. If we ever get big enough, you see it. I should know your name. But Rosalind Brewer, thank you, Rosalind Brewer. What you thinking, Pizzle?
So one thing I gotta say is different, right? One thing that I experienced as being a photographer, and I told you about it, is one thing I've always noticed is that when I take photos of African American couples, especially women, it's a lot heavier of a critique on the photos versus any other race or ethnicity. When I actually provide the photos to them, a lot of them, they love it. Oh, this is amazing. But a lot of times when it came to African American women, especially and African Americans, it was kind of like yo, I look fat, or I don't look right, yo, you gotta bring this in, or this doesn't look right. The colors are. And I used to always have a big battle with that. I used to always think it was me because I take my work very personal. But gaining the perspective after talking to other Black women, I was able to gain a different perspective of why. And one of the biggest points was that you got to think about the path of the Black woman, right? Everything that she had to come through in order to be acceptable, I guess, within America. So that's whether or not straightening your hair with hair products. That's whether or not, one of the big controversies of African American women is their body shape. Years before, nobody liked it. Now, all of a sudden, now everybody wants to Kylie Jenner, everybody going out, getting lip injection, getting hip injections, getting butt injections, breast. So when you look at a lot of things and you look at the oppression of African American women, to me, throughout the years, to me, it kind of makes sense that we are some of the biggest consumers of like makeup and beauty because they're consistently changing the way they look to try to fit in with regular society and what they put on them to actually fit in. So it's just it becomes, it makes sense when I see that, because it's like, yeah, African American women, they gotta buy the products, they gotta put the makeup on, they gotta look a certain way in front of certain crowds to kind of make it work. So it's just, I found that to be an interesting piece. I'm not saying that is what it is, but that's just like my perspective on some of it. So,
hey, well, Pizzle, you want to know the Game 7 response to that?
what's
A
that?
lot of black women and black men don't even know what they look like.
Yeah.
They don't put the work in to find out. You feel
You
me?
said what?
They don't put the work in to find out. Like
Meaning
how I dropped that wedding picture in the chat yesterday.
Yep.
And I was like, yo, that look powerful because they put the work in. So like I know you talking like knock their pictures, like they be pointing out their arms. Yo, when the last time you did a workout program?
Yeah.
Right? Not for a week, not for no 30 days. Like you're willing to take the time for 20, 25, 30, 40, 45, 50 years to get to your state, but you're not willing to take 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 120, 150, 180, whatever, to get to your ideal state, which is not that long in comparison to the decades that you've established these bad habits, right? So a lot of people, men and women, try to overcome their physical, like, all right.
That's just weight. Like there's many other things that are factoring into, like hair, the way that the shape. It's not just weight. There's other things as well.
But that change, it changes so much. Like being in shape changes so much. Like what you naturally look like comes out. Like, and like I said, I'm not a girl. Like I know it's going to be products that they gotta use. You feel me? That's just what women do. A secure woman, a confident woman, all the way to the most. I get that part, but you're not. Like everything could be cool mentally, physically, but you look like a Civic when you really inside of a Ferrari. Like a Ferrari, you don't gotta take care of it all like you do a Civic because it's a Ferrari. Like you gotta see what you really got, and then you mold that into what you want to be. But if you don't have what you can really, like your tools are not what they really are, there's gonna be even more that you feel you gotta overcompensate for. Make sense?
I see your points. Yep.
But that's not something we do in our culture. Like one thing that's not a myth, some of y'all experience, like one way you're in an affluent neighborhood, people are outside running.
Yeah.
You ever notice that? Right? Like you go to the hood, not just because of the danger, nobody's outside running. I used to think it was like a white thing until I started going to more affluent black neighborhoods. We do the same thing. Like it's just part of, you go to the park in one kind of neighborhood, everybody's smoking and they trapping. In another neighborhood, it's dads out there with their kids working out. It's moms walking, grandmas walking, people running. It's like, they're actually using the park. It's not a dangerous place to go to where a lot of transactions take place or some neglected kind of place. It's like the culture and the lifestyles are very, very different. But what you thinking, G? My fault, Pizzle. You got something to say back?
No, that was it. I just wanted to offer that other perspective, because I used to always have the same opinion as you. Like, yo, nah, son, like, you gotta do better. Come on, yo, what's up? But then talking to multiple African American women, older and young, it kind of made me gain a different perspective. Like, yo, yeah, they always are trying to fit in, and that's why it makes it a little more rough for them. So that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Like they gotta realize they are the gifts. Like there's no image they got to live up to besides their own personal 100%.
Yeah, of course. I mean, look how many people try to copy the black woman. So you are the gift. You got to remember that.
I see you, Jess. But what you got, G?
I mean, in general, well, first off, can y'all hear me? I've been struggling with the internet this whole time. So
yeah, good now.
Y'all can hear me? All right. So generally speaking, with the spend on beauty, on one hand, I think someone said it earlier, it's nothing wrong with wanting to feel beautiful. So I definitely support that. I think that, as part of a larger conversation that we're going to have today, is about having levels of control in what you spend on, how much you spend, when you spend. And I think we as a culture, for good or worse, we tend to overindulge or to overcompensate or to overdo. And once you start to find that level of balance, then you can honestly say it's nothing wrong with spending on beauty. It's nothing wrong with spending on yourself, but you still get to progress out of those different levels. And hopefully we go back to those levels so we can discuss it. But we stay in level one, which is survival mode, because we overcompensate, overspend over XYZ.
True.
Which goes in perfectly in line with Kels just said. Like, you know, you get makeup, it don't gotta be the top quality.
Mm-hmm. And what is top quality? Like, do you do the research to go find out the composition of the product, or is it top quality because this company spent the most marketing dollars? You feel me?
There is a video that I got a chance to watch. It was like cycling on Instagram or Facebook, maybe about 3-4 years ago.
I saw
And it was a black and white picture, and it was from like the 20s, 30s, or 40s. And maybe like the 30 seconds that I remember, it was powerful because even back then during that time, they identified the psychology of the black consumer. And one aspect that really stuck with me is that the Negro buys by brand, regardless of quality, right? We find an attachment or some kind of positive, feeling or just confirmation from having brands on, right? And we see a shift. Don't get me wrong, of people, of black people or other ethnicities providing high-end fashion brands for us to consume, right? Look at the designer Amiri, right? That's a black designer. I'm not sure how much he owns of his own product, right? But that is a black designer. So in essence, wearing his merchandise would be a better decision than say a Louis Vuitton or a Gucci or Tommy Hilfiger, which we all know, are not of African descent. And it doesn't mean that they're bad because they produce, products that we like to consume. But if we want to continue to just keep the circulation of money in our community or amongst ourselves, we got to take a page out of the book that Jewish people, subscribe to. Their dollar is spent, I think, on an average of like 8 or 9 times. It cycles 8 or 9 times in their community before it leaves their community. And that just allows people to just, find stability or find a level ground that they can stand on, because now I have a constant flow of income. And now maybe I can get myself out of the woods. I can get myself to a place where I understand I no longer need to be in survival mode, or I do need to get out of this space, because look at what else is available to me or my family when I do get out of this space, right? I do have my bills met. I mean, the needs for my bills met. I have excess now, and maybe I've consumed up until, whatever my appetite is, but I still have this income. We have to just be able to do a better job at identifying the discipline aspect outside of also the understanding, right? Discipline just makes you be able to put into the background what you want now because of what is important later.
Yeah.
Just if I can add one thing onto that, when you talk about brands, it's almost a psychological component to that, because the thing about brands are that they're very divisive. And I'll say one thing about the DMV area, and I don't even know if we always do it on purpose, but we are definitely like a joning community. And one of the negative impacts of that is its divisiveness, because you see somebody with, Reebok instead of Nike, or you see somebody with, I don't know, Old Navy jeans instead of whatever other jeans, and you make jokes about it and it's funny, but there's a psychological impact to that. So now if you're that person who grew up without XYZ, when you get the money, the first thing you want to do is show off your status by getting these brands that you couldn't afford, or maybe you got teased about not having when you were younger. So I think some of that divisiveness, and I'm sure it exists in other Black communities around the country, help to kind of prolong this sense of, I have to have the BMW, I have to have the Mercedes, whatever it is. And if we look back at how we were brought up and what we saw on TV, I think we'd see some connections between kind of that divisiveness, whether it's from entertainers or from somebody who lived down the block that may have had more than you?
Yeah, perfect segue. Perfect segue. I didn't know how I was going to fit it in, but I believe that at least speaking for me, just KG and kind of KP, because we work in the school system in one city, I know, but it's more or less the same across the country, if not worse here. Because we work in the school system and the kind of schools that we went to, like the school system is like the real world. Like you don't know nothing about little kids if you don't, or in young adults. I don't care if you're a coach, unless you work in a school building. Like if we were to tell you things we don't see this year, but that we've seen over the years in the building, you wouldn't believe it, yo. Like it's so sad. It's very, very, very disheartening, especially in a city like here where it's not billions probably, but hundreds of millions of dollars that's poured into these kids that goes to waste. I always tell the kids like, yo, y'all got all these resources, but zero resourcefulness, right? But I say segregation and exposure, and I'll pull it up because I was telling my students about this the other day. Now we're learning about black people because the month start with an F. So now we're doing some black people stuff, right? So we showed them this video from the school about how MLK got assassinated by James Earl dude, and that's how he died. I said, yo, y'all know that's not true? Oh no, that is true. That's my mom talk. Say, watch this. So we pulled up the court records of how the government was found guilty by the governmental, or if that's a word, court system of the murder for MLK. Right? But it wasn't on the news. It wasn't on the phone ad, so we missed that part. Right? And then also they could not believe, because it's not black and white videos or pictures no more, that schools are more segregated today than they were during segregation. Schools are more segregated today without Jim Crow, without blatant, violent, everyday public racism. Schools are more segregated today than they were during actual segregation.
Can I make a real quick comment?
Yes, sir.
The individual that refuses to lose will always find a means to accomplishing their goal, regardless of the opposition that they face. Okay, understand that that is a position that the leaders of this country, regardless of color, that's a characteristic that they have. Okay, so while it is no more socially acceptable to have segregation, if that is a desire, they just create other means to be able to have that outcome still be true, right?
Red line.
Bingo.
Neighborhoods harder to get into. You put better schools in certain neighborhoods. You send kids from one area of a neighborhood to one school based on the demographics, whatever those demographics are. So race, I don't know if you can segregate by religion or whatever it is, but it's not an accident that good schools are in one part of the county and bad schools are in another part.
Thousand.
True. But I think much more so, it's not a county thing or a tax thing or like a location thing. It's a culture thing, right? And like me, like luckily, I think I got like the most unique experience as a DC teacher because I worked in like damn near all of the schools because I started off as a sub, right? And I would do months at a time, like this years ago, but I've been in so many different schools, so I got like an exposure to this. Yo, and like regardless, unless you at like a Walls or like one of them schools where they picking who they want, and that ain't just white, it's like everybody, the best of the best, those different, right? But I'm talking about just the general school. Like for example, at the high school level, I had more kids that could not read than could read. I had 20-year-olds in high school who could not write. Wait till I told my kids this week, wait till we get back to regular school where we got pen and paper instead of keyboard. Yo, the writing is going to be horrible, right? That comes from home. Nas can read already. Nas can read. I didn't even know. Like I know he could sound out, but he just picked up a book. He's like, "Yo, Dad, Incredible Hulk, just that." So I'm reading. I didn't even know he could read, right? But just from being around and paying attention to school stuff, you know how to read. You can't write yet, right? But I'm not joking. I had seniors, juniors and seniors who write like my son.
That's
Right?
disheartening. Disheartening because it shows, it exposes the fact that you have an inability to be able to express what is inside, right?
That's
Which creates an entire lifelong reality of having an inability to express oneself, right? Which creates anxiety, frustration, not feeling like people understand you, right? Having that lone wolf life experience. That's a hurtful thing.
Yeah.
Even if we're not just talking about school, right? Because the realities that we see in school that are walking between the halls every single day that me and you have seen. So like me and Malcolm, for people who don't know, have been blessed enough to be able to be in our lives, in each other's lives since we was 12. And then God reconnected us to be able to work in the same high school together for a period of years, right? So that we can experience that together as well as our own upbringing. And the disparity is disheartening. And what makes it even more disheartening for me is that this very, very unfortunate reality is tied up in a beautiful bow tie of a $20 million building. It's like getting a Lamborghini shell with a hoopty engine and transmission inside.
And you don't know until you go in.
No,
right?
yeah.
And when visitors come in, it's just like a prison. They put it on lockdown. So like like, hey, we got discipline today. Like the superintendent here, you get an email. Please make sure your board has this on it, and make sure this. Oh, Tim didn't come to class today. Where Tim at? Oh, the principal bought him lunch. He in the principal's office. Yo, Tim be ruining the school, all by himself, threatening women, fighting teachers, bullying freshmen, bullying the Hispanic girl who just came here, was having a tough time because she don't know nobody, don't know the language, and he bullying her, and there's nothing done. But now when the people that come in that give out the scores, Tim got McDonald's in the office. Tim doing his work today. So I'm just saying you really don't know until you go in there, and like you gotta really be like, for example, one wild story. And then I know G wants to transition back to the levels. So one wild story. This is 2017 maybe, and Josh, you probably know the month. Like whenever term 2 starts, so like December maybe, January, no, November, somewhere around there. The charter schools, the kids that was blowing the school, not literally, but like wreaking havoc. October, November. They kicked those kids out, right? And those kids are mandated to go to either their neighborhood school, or if it's too dangerous for them to go to their neighborhood school because of whatever beef or history or family or gang they're part of, they get assigned to another school to where they think that they'll be safer. Just that one person.
Safety transfer.
Safety transfer, right? It's a safety transfer. They get transferred to another school, right? So I had two of these. One was a court transfer. Yo, this is like a 10th grader. Yo had to be like 6'3", 220, dog. You feel me? Like a 10th grader, right?
I remember.
Angry dude, like threatening women, like, yo, getting face to face with, like, I'll knock you, like women, dog, like everybody, bullying the kids and all that. I spoke to him, but you can't, because they fight you. Like, it wasn't worth it, And I just told the lady, yo, just lock yourself in the room, do what he do. So he's wreaking havoc. But we get to the last period that I've been telling them from day one that is the worst composition of kids to have in a classroom together, right? In school, I'm not exaggerating. Even some of the middle schools, it's like a baby prison. Like, yeah, I've never been to prison, but they also about how loud it is. Like, that's how you just hear noises and screams and booms and bangs. So I'm hearing like this banging, 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 banging. And then I got this girl in the back. She was like a 9th, 10th grader, right? They calling for her. I look at it's somebody grandma, bro, kicking on my door. Boom, 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 boom. Right? And it's this other lady. Boom. It's the grandma, the mom, and then the student. The student was, I wish KG was here, a young lady who was a safety transfer and then a court transfer. Like she was mandated to be there, causing the school to go crazy. But the grandma and the mom are trying to get in my room so they can get to this little girl to fight her. Right? So open the door real quick. Got on the other side of the closing. They trying to fight me. Right? So I'm just standing there like, yo, somebody come get her. Somebody come get her. Somebody come get her. And eventually they come get her. Then they negotiate. Now, this is a threat. This is two grown women, one older woman, but one younger age, prime shape, grown woman trying to fight a little girl. Y'all negotiating, right? But like that shouldn't happen. Like, but those kind of things happen all the time. But where I get to exposure, G, is like, yo, we have these our own personal perspective of different cultures, especially white people, but we've never been around them. Like me and Jess, when we was at the alternative school, we worked at two schools together, Jess. At the alternative school, the first time, we took them 10 blocks to where Target at? 14th Street, Columbia Heights.
Yes.
Yo, it's a Target here and a Chipotle. We didn't even get on the metro. We walked. You feel like they just hadn't been exposed. And I know what's helped us, especially me and Jess, is like going to Petty. Like we went to school with people from around the world. They know different than us. Like histories and things are different, but they put their shoes on every day just like we do. And I know that's something I often forget. It's like, yo, a lot of people haven't been exposed. But make it a priority to go expose yourself to it. Let's stop skipping baseball season and let's play baseball. You know, at a higher level, you go and play with other cultures. You know, like it was one time I played on 5 teams, all different people. But at the highest level, one team, it was only me and Brandon. Brandon Jacobs, remember him? Me and him, a bunch of Dominicans and a bunch of white dudes. I would have never been in that situation if I didn't play baseball. All right, so it's very, very important that we expose ourselves to different cultures so we can see that we're no different than everybody else. So, G, I'm going to pull the presentation, and you can drop whatever you want to drop about the different levels.
I don't necessarily have anything in particular. I just want to steer the conversation back there because that was the original intent. So I think before we run out of time, let's just go through maybe some tips or how we work through to get to level 4, which is something that I currently struggle with. So finding that purpose and then driving towards that, I think is something we could touch on. But before we do that, to go back to your point about exposure, I think the toughest part of that, one is having the resources to be exposed, right? But it's a fear. And I think it's a fear that exists on both sides. That's why when you do have someone that may look like us in the community, that's not the norm for them, not only are they nervous, but the people who see them are nervous. And that is a big issue that I don't know how we work around as a larger community. And it's unfortunate because, to your point, when you do get in these rooms or you get on these teams where color is now no longer the dividing force, but everyone has the same goal, then you start to be able to create even more powerful things. But unfortunately, color is usually that barrier to hold us apart, which is a sad thing.
I never think of that though.
Well, but you can't necessarily always just see it from your perspective, because one thing that we know, and we said at the beginning of this call, we have been blessed to either possess a different perspective or be put in a situation where we were able to excel and maybe cross over from what is the norm for everybody else. So I agree. I don't necessarily think about it that way either. Y'all went to Petty, and I always say that my Petty equivalent was my time going to Germany and literally being the only Black person in the city. Yeah. So it wasn't easy, not at all, but it's given me a different perspective. And I understand the benefits of trying to find that connection outside of your color, but everybody doesn't have that exposure. So it's tougher to understand the benefits to letting your guard down and saying, okay, I don't just see this white person or this Asian person or this Indian person or whatever else across from me, but I see a person who has interests that may overlap with mine, or at the very least, a person that can teach me something. Yeah. And I think that's where we go wrong a lot as a larger community.
No, you're right, 100%.
Can I jump in real quick? I took some notes. I just want to be able to share. The first thing I want to start off with is understanding, identifying the fact that for your all right, whether you believe in God or whoever, all right, to be able to be fulfilled in this life or past this life, it is your responsibility to find out what your purpose is. That is the reason why level 4 is the goal. Forget money, forget status, forget freedom, forget not being in survival, right? For you to be fulfilled within your own being, you have to be operating in your purpose. You hear people talk about that as if it's some kind of like slogan, right? But genuinely, people that are out here operating in their purpose are clearly more satisfied. They don't chase the bag. They don't chase money. They don't chase opportunities, right? Because they are positioned in the lane that they are supposed to be in and why they were created. They get rewarded and life continues to fuel them. It continues to confirm what they are doing is where they're supposed to be, where they are supposed to be. So that's number one. Identify that purpose is the goal for everyone, despite color, despite where you're from, despite all of those things, okay? Now, to me, how do you get to your purpose? You got to break through a couple different layers that we don't understand or we haven't been able to master in the Black community, okay? The very first thing, health, okay? I completely understand why so many of us as Black people struggle with health and understanding why, number one, health is a priority. Number two, how to change the circumstances. So we struggle with health because it is a norm. It is a norm. It is a norm for individuals in our family to have organs that just don't work properly. Okay? It just doesn't work. I think if people clearly understood when you have diabetes, that means that your organ called a pancreas just shut down. It don't work no more. Your level of consumption of potato chips, of French fries, of sugar producing food, you have maxed that organ out. It is gone, no longer properly functioning. That should not be a norm. That should be an alarm going off, a siren. What have I done to my body out of my normal activity that has my organ not work? Okay, that's number one. High blood pressure. That means that your veins that are usually this wide, you have ate so much unhealthy food that it's create plaque. Just like your teeth, it has created plaque. So now what used to be this wide is only this wide. And now my heart has to pump and pump and pump at a harder rate, at a faster rate, at a more strenuous rate to move blood through my body so that I can properly function. That's alarming. That's not normal. That's not okay. That's not okay to say, oh, well, I got to take these pills to address this issue, but I don't address the root cause. And I understand our supermarkets don't have the same quality of produce. Boy, do I understand that reality. I do, right? Do I understand that corner stores and our convenience stores are filled with foods and products that are not healthy for us? That's true, and that's cool. But if you can make a decision to constantly drive past the liquor store, drive past the XYZ store, because you understand that those things are harmful, and maybe your mother, your father had a struggle with a substance abuse issue, and you know you don't want to go down that path. We got to make the same decision when we driving past whatever the supermarket is in our neighborhood that we know just doesn't have a good, a good reputation of having healthy foods or better quality foods. You might have to hop in a car 20 minutes and go to the closest supermarket that is that provides that level of product for you. That is worth the investment, because I'll be honest with you. You're not traveling right down the street to get them Louis, right? You're not traveling right down the street to get them that Fendi belt, right? And sorry for my language, but you're not traveling right down the street to be shitting on them niggas this weekend when you get your whole fly ass outfit on, or you're not, or whatever the case may be, right? You have to understand that this thing called your body is a one and done deal, right? Your journey can be cut short. We've seen it, and we see it. And this is a great conversation because people are having to make their own decision on what they're going to do with this body when it comes to this vaccine. All right. And I just urge people to make a decision that is conscious and not one that is created off of urgency or survival. Number one. So health is one. Education is two. We just got to change the narrative on what the value is and what education can potentially do to change our entire trajectory. Okay? The direction that your last name has been going in for the last 3 or 4 generations, if you're not satisfied with that, you got to identify. I don't care if you're 12 years old. Look at your people. I'm talking to me right now, too. When I was 12 and I got a chance to meet Malcolm, I seen what direction my family was going in. One side of my family was in survival and the other one was focused on trying to keep a status. You understand? Neither one of them was satisfying to me at 12. Everybody remember what it's like to be 12, a 12-year-old boy. Whew, hormones is kicking in, baby. I know how to go after what I want because my body telling me. And either I got to make a decision to say, hey, look at what my auntie, uncle, my mother, my father did when it came to their sexual behaviors. And now look to see what it does to their future or what it did to their future. And I got to make a better decision. That just so happened to be my reality. And I'm thankful for it, right? And it's no shade on my parents because they did an amazing job. Look at the product that they created with me and my brother, right? But I understood that after having a series of conversations with them, that's not a reality I wanted for me. So when it came to my sexual urges, it was important for me to be able to curb them because I understood what the potential impact could be on my future. And if it meant that I had to fall back on my sexual urges and learn a different style of living so that I didn't have to be in survival mode or be trying to focus on staying up with the Joneses and keeping this status that is clearly false, right? Then I had to make some adjustments, all right? So you have to understand that you have to see what your family is operating in. See them for who they are, not their title. Ask yourself a simple question. If I don't do anything different than my family does, will I be happy living the life that they provided with me for the entirety of my life? Will you be happy? Will you be satisfied with all the things that are changing in our society, the things that are becoming more readily available for all people, right? Will I be okay still eating carryout? I mean, that's the norm in my family. Is it okay that Friday nights is always Chick-fil-A nights? Damn, why don't I want to check out Mastro's? Why don't I want a norm to be able to sit down at a place where I pay for my meal after I eat? That's not a norm in people's families, right? So it's important to understand that you have to have a vision that is bigger than your family if you accept the fact that you are not satisfied with what your family is being able to offer you. You are in a position of power to change that, even if you are 11, 12 years old, because you are being provided with opportunities that your adult family members are not, because no one is coming to help adults. The help cuts off when you change from childhood to adulthood. Okay? Grasp and soak up all the resources when you are a child. It is probably your one and only opportunity to receive help in this world. The last thing is I want to equate it to sports, because this connects directly to parenting and whoever's playing the role as a parent. Okay? This is how you change the trajectory of Black families, of Black individuals, okay? In sports are created on a tier system, okay? We have people who oversee, we have people who coach, we have people who execute that are called players, okay? The overseers are grandparents. They have so much more experience on this journey than everyone else. They have to do a better job of influencing and still raising their adult children. Identify the mishaps or the successes that they have in their own children and reinforce them to their children. This is what I did great with you, and I'm happy and I'm proud that you became this individual because of that, because of my doing in this. But now that I'm older, I see X, Y, and Z that I could have done better. And if I did do better in these areas, your reality might be different in these areas. Maybe think about doing that with your baby, with our baby, right? So the executive, the grandparent has to continue to filter into their adult parent. Now, that's the GM, the executive. The parent is the coach, though. They have the closest and daily connection to that player, which is the child. Okay, the coach has a responsibility to coach that player up so that they can stand up against opposition when it comes to any kind of physical threat, visual threat, mental threat, right? Malcolm knows I'm probably the smallest guy on every team that he's been on a team with me. I've been one of the smaller guys, right? But I never ever lacked, I don't know what the word is, right? But I never got a chance to get caught up on the hurdle of someone being physically bigger than me, right? Verbally bigger than me, all of these different things, because I had been coached up in my home, right? By my coach, my parents, to understand that despite what you see as opposition, they fall how you fall. They eat how you eat. They struggle like you struggle. Now go out there and do what you were prepared to do. Okay? And having that approach, right? When you become a coach and you continuously feed your child mentally, right? With tools that allow them to overcome opposition. When you feed them with visions of themselves that they can at some time or periodically fulfill, they begin to identify with and take ownership of that vision that you've created for them, right? And all of the other things. So now when I step out into the world and I'm met with opposition, I no longer feel, sorry, my dog is going off. 1 second.
He just got met with some opposition.
And the great thing about it is she didn't back down now, right? Also, another reason why I love my dog, she's a runt of the litter. All right. If anybody look at me, they know me. I'm like the run of my litter, right? And not only do we have to overcompensate for the lack of physical presence that we have, right? We also have to have a knowing, right? A lot of people see this clip going on over and over of Jay-Z talking about how he walks into a room as his self. He has to have this knowing about him, right? That is such an uncommon characteristic that breaks my heart. Because if you walk out into this world not knowing who you are, the world is going to tell you exactly who they need you to be so that they can continue to operate in their purpose. And that completely obliterates your purpose. You understand? So we have to just do a better job from the levels that we have in our families to change our trajectory so that maybe my grandmother won't ever experience her purpose. Maybe my parents won't ever experience their purpose. But maybe that's not their purpose in this journey. Them jokers sat on the bus in the South for us to be able to ride how we want to ride today. You understand? Understand what the reality is of investment. Understand where you fit in the journey. Your journey may not be to reap the benefit. Your journey might be to create momentum, to create the knowing, so that people who carry your last name have a different reality than you do. Stop dropping the ball, please. Stop dropping the ball, right? That can no longer be a norm in Black people's families anymore. Stop being a victim. You're not no victim no more. Sorry that I'm talking hard, right? But stop being a victim. You not. Maybe when you was my age, you was a victim, but you're 70 now. You 80 now. Stop projecting that same reality. That reality no longer exists. Does it come with a financial cost? It does. But so do the pills that you take every month. So does the pills. Stop making it okay that your kid not showing up to school every day. That's basics, baby. Force that female to get used to doing things they don't want to do, because that's what it's called to be an adult. And if you don't create that behavior in your young people, I don't care if they're 5, I don't care if they're 4 months old, we're going to eat now because it's eating time. You don't get a chance to make the decision of doing what you want to do, because what you want to do will misguide you throughout your life. Emotions are the most misguided influence in anyone's lives because they are so forever changing. If I make decisions on ground that is continuously changing, I cannot give myself an opportunity to be a stable individual. I'm not standing on stable ground. And I know I've talked for the last 10 minutes, so I'm gonna fall back, right?
So I listened intently, and once again, another good sermon from you. I just got a few notes, and the first is you put a lot of pressure on the GM or the grandparent to impart their wisdom, but the second part of that is the coaches, so the parents and the players, the kids, they got to receive it, and they gotta listen, they gotta trust, and then implement that feedback. And I think there's a disconnect between maybe the generation that's after us, our generation, and the ones that have come before, where we very quickly think we know more than them. So we don't listen, we don't take their advice, we don't follow in their footsteps, or if their footsteps weren't necessarily always the best, we don't learn from their mistakes. So I think that's key. Then if we go back to your education point, one thing, I don't know who said it first, but every time I hear it, it's the most mind-blowing, simple thing in the world. The internet is free. So we don't have these barriers to education that existed in the 50s where because our textbook was 20 years old, the information was outdated. You can literally Google anything you want and find the information you need. So if you want to be more educated, if you want to learn something new, you can do it. It's in your hand. Everybody has a phone. It's literally in the palm of your hand. So there aren't any excuses when it comes to resources in terms of education, because if you got a phone, you got every piece of information that ever existed, essentially.
And that goes along with like exposure too, right? Because then we wait for people to expose us to certain things. Yet, like you said, we got a phone in our hand and we can literally expose ourselves to just millions and billions of different topics and subjects. So, yeah.
Also, whatever you gravitate to, right? Because even if you live in a rough neighborhood, or you live in a neighborhood that values different things, you being exposed. You know to save up them couple dollars for them J's that's coming out. You know how to use resources to find out release dates. You know how to utilize resources for things that don't pour back into you, right? But that is a mentality that has to be cultivated from adults. And I agree with you, G, because the plight of educators today is that many young people are not receptive to information or ways to adjust their journey, right? And it's not for all, but for the ones that continuously struggle, right? They're not as receptive, and unfortunately, they don't understand that this life is undefeated. Whatever lesson that you don't want to learn by decision, you will learn by force, right? But you will get the lesson. And if you never get the lesson, my heart goes out for you, because you made your journey so much harder than it had to be, right? If you understand your life to be chapters, I heard Kevin Hart say this other day, so I'm gonna give him his props. He said, your life should be like a book. It should have different chapters. And at the end of every chapter, there should be lessons that you've gathered from that chapter that you use to implement and influence you moving on to the next chapter. Now, here goes a 4-chapter scale: survival, status, freedom, purpose. You know how unfortunate it is for someone never to get past chapter 1, just to be able to grasp what the lessons are, to be able to utilize when I am now a part of the cohort of people that is trying to protect status. I'm going to use what I learned during my survival not to get caught up in the status, more so than to just use maybe what people do for living, right? Their lifestyle, health, maybe the other things that are a little bit better than people in survival. And I don't get caught up in the status aspect, so that I can get what God has for me at purpose and freedom, right? We're not even giving ourselves a chance to step into what is here for us. Like, it's here for us. But you got generations of people of all colors, right? Because we already know we're gearing the conversation towards minorities or Black people. But look at the sea of white people in Middle America. They're not experiencing too much of a different reality physically, emotionally, and all the other things than us as Black people, right? And then sometimes worse. The graduation rate in the state of Ohio is like 12%. That's colorless. That's colorless. That's all people. So my heart goes out. Please take a step back. Please take a step back. We are in an opportunity where we can transition at this point, right? There's a lot of turbulence happening in society right now for a purpose. Turbulence is to shake you up. Hopefully what settles is not the same thing that was before, right? My thoughts and prayers go out to y'all, and know that we are forever a resource for everyone that is in voice or earshot range of our conversations.
No doubt. And I took notes as all three of y'all spoke. And Ray just made this comment: we got to make education discipline cool. So some of the data, because I didn't take all of it, but we are the most likely to buy something because a celebrity said so. Right? So Ray is right according to our culture, according to our society. But the true answer for us to flip is that we don't have to make it cool, because it is cool. Like, getting money is cool. Having a big ass house is cool. Taking your whole family on vacation is cool. Being able to go rap in your own studio and get all of your royalties and all that is cool, right? But the process to get there is not cool, right? So Ray, you are right, but just speaking in terms of the data. Hold on, Mason, y'all be killing me. Speaking in terms of the data, we don't have to make it cool, right? So to recap, back to what G was saying, everybody don't got to think like me in terms of they don't see color. Like, I see color, but it don't mean nothing to me, because I've accepted the challenge, right? Not the situation, right? But I've accepted the challenge. And that's a big thing that we have to do. Like, if we can tell from the past years, the past year, that we still so hurt by things that happened to us a long time ago, right? And I'm not saying to forget, right? Because that's who we are. Like, we got to know the people that we are. But it's like every opportunity we got to show that we're still hurt, we still show it, right? And that don't mean don't show it, right? But it's got to come to a point to where we accept the challenge, not the situation. Yo, so go get some therapy, right? Go get some help. Get in a group. And now, one thing where I kind of undervalue is the benefit of having y'all. Like, y'all just my homies, like just my friends. Like, everybody else got friends. But people tell me all the time, it's like, yo, I don't got friends like you. And I don't be knowing what to say. Like, go ahead, Jess.
How did you get the friends that you got, though, Malcolm?
Very true. All right. So,
Exposure.
No, Malcolm got the friends that he got because he continued to operate towards purpose. You understand? None of us grew up with Malcolm. None of us were birthed in the same area. We didn't play on the same Pop Warner football team.
Except KG.
Well, yeah, all right. I'm just talking about in this circle right here, right? And look at the blessing of continuing to operate in your purpose and never being satisfied. Because you didn't stop, I met you. Because you didn't stop after you met me, you've allowed me to be able to have amazing brotherhoods with these two other gentlemen on here. You created that opportunity for me. So it's not always just about the benefit that you get, right? Who are you not blessing by you falling back, right? By you not operating in your purpose and continue to walk along the journey that God has for you, or whatever you believe in, right? It just so happens that we happen to be in this space now.
Yeah, and I think to your point, Jess, you can be whoever this person is. That's like, Malk, I don't have friends like you. You have friends. You can be the one that's that catalyst to change how your group texts go, how your conversations go, how every interaction with your friends go. And usually, if you take the lead, the people around you, the ones who should remain around you, will follow. And then you start to normalize these conversations and these debates in these topics and this sharing of information that'll help all of you advance and look back and say, damn, we started here. Look where we are now.
Very true. And when he turned his camera on, I'm gonna add the newest friend who just joined us. But yeah, I never really thought about that. But yes, I meant all of y'all like on my path, like more or less doing extra stuff. I got you, Mace. So like just we was doing an extra program to where we went to school on an extra day of the week in the 7th grade, an extra 5 weeks in the summer in the 7th grade, an extra day of the week in the 8th grade, 2 days a week in the
For 2 years, sorry.
If throughout 2 years, yeah, an extra day in the 8th grade and an extra 5 literally whole weeks in before high school, right? So the extra mile. We went to college together, but I just noticed something from the beginning, like something was different about him. You feel me? Like normally, respectfully, I just don't be thinking people would be that smart. That's just my honest opinion. And I'm a nerd, so that could be why. But I noticed, like, yo, this dude get it. What up, Mace? This dude gets it, right? And we bonded from the beginning, like from the very, 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 very beginning. It was just like a bond. Pizzle through school, but Pizzle, like, we were friends always, but like especially towards the later years, you know, when he was having his own difficulties getting through school, and we kept saying like, yo, do classes with us. Like we already together all the time between classes. You struggling in the classes, we cooking. As soon as we got all together, we started helping each other, and boom. And we also exposed Pizzle. He was like, yo, like y'all just be doing regular stuff and doing y'all work. Like I don't know how y'all do it. It's a little more detail to that, but you have to sign up for a Game 7 personal conversation for us to really get down to it. But he was like, I don't know how y'all do it, you know? And then Mace, we met Mace through like business. We was having trouble through our business setup working with his school, but then he just came in and was like, yo, nah, this is what we do, boom, boom, boom. And we noticed when we did our event with them, he was the happiest person in the building. And he recently told us, he was like, I was just so happy to have help, like people that understood the kids, but also understood the educational business profession side of it, you know? And he adds extreme value. Like my man about to be a doctor. And it's not just because he's about to be a doctor, like he a cool dude who's about to be a doctor, and like we do mental health, and like he adds so much value. So speaking for me and my experience, my friend circle was developed through my path. And then to go to what G said, I'm that guy too. Like I'm the one who said, yo, we needed once I talked to Jess, Pizzle, and Blake that day, I said, yo, this fun and gun group chat is done. Like I don't want to talk about entertainment no more. I don't care about who won this, who won that, who got this award, who got shot over there. We're gonna do an all value added group chat, right? Then some dudes got mad that they wasn't in the group chat. It was like, it was an open invite. You wanted to have fun. We wanted to get to the bread. You ain't come over. It's still open. Come on over, right? And then it evolved again. Like we got the Game 7 chat. That was 3 of us, and now it's 6 of us, right? And then it evolved again to the money chat. Then it evolved again to the money courses chat. Then it evolved again to we actually using the skills that we pursued by taking the courses, right? And that was me. Like I prioritize myself and always setting the pace, right? Every day y'all wake up, y'all got a book. I done already did my workout. We got a plan. And I know it drive y'all crazy sometimes. Like, damn, I can't even brush my teeth because Malcolm want to know 10 questions. But yo, I set the pace, you know? So my friend circle is a result of me, just like all y'all. Like y'all not here for no reason. It's a result of you being the man that you are. Going to passion and purpose. So many people say, I don't know my passion. I don't know what that is. I haven't found it yet. Well, that's because you haven't dated it. Like Jess is married, right? Jess didn't know he was going to marry Keisha off the rip. They always, I don't know why they still tell me, like every couple months, we were just friends first. Like we were just friends. We would just hang out. Like, yo, I know by now it's been a good 15 years. You feel me? I know by now. But now they're deeply, deeply in love and they're married. They're passionate about them too. But they didn't know that from the beginning. They had to date it, right? So usually a man sees a girl and he's physically attracted to her. Nothing else. Unless he went to school with her growing up, like they got the development. But if you're just strangers, you're physically attracted to her, you want to go know more, right? So you may think that's your passion, right? You may want to rap, right? Because it looked good. But then you meet her and her attitude is just toxic. Or she has her stuff together and her expectations are too high for you to be able to fulfill, right? Or somewhere in between. So you thought it was it, but that really wasn't it. So maybe music wasn't your thing. But through your process with her, like, dang, I gotta become more accountable. And you dive into learning about accountability. And maybe rapping wasn't your thing, and you learned that you really should be an A&R, right? You just stumbled upon it. Like I was telling G the other day, I had no idea I was gonna be no teacher. I was effed up in these streets. I ain't have a job for 2 years. For those people who didn't know, I'll be forgetting about that part of my life because I can't even really talk about it. You know, like I didn't have a job for 2 years. I was in the mix, right? Boom, one day everything fell apart, right? But Jess was like, yeah, you got a degree. All you gotta do is be a sub. You don't gotta teach. Just make sure they don't kill each other. I didn't know he like literally meant that, but that's what it was. And then I got into the school system and noticed I had a gift for connecting with the kids. And then once I really started taking it seriously, I noticed I had a gift for all of this. And then now we here. Like I just love teaching. I hate teaching in the school way. I love teaching the things that from my personal experience, I learned that really mattered. Right. So you're not just gonna know your passion off the rip, right? And it may not be what your parents have assigned to you. And it may not be what you think it is. Like you gotta spend some time with it. Write it down, Jess. Right? You gotta spend some time with it.
I was just saying the amen myself to what your mom said.
I ain't even read it. I just put it up. But amen.
We passed the friendship. We're a brotherhood on a mission.
Yes, undoubtedly. I often tell y'all, like, y'all more family than my family. Like, I've been talking to my family this week and it feels weird. You know, no disrespect or no neglect or no nothing like that. But it's like, you know, y'all know my family situation. Another thing, blood pressure and stress. The second biggest killer in this country is heart problems, right? Number one is accidental physical harm, right? Second is heart problems. Third and fourth is homicide and suicide. So 3 out of those 4, we killing ourselves, like with a purpose, right? So, but speaking of blood pressure, not only is it the food that you intake, but it's also the stress, right? So when you're stressed, and Mace, maybe you can write this down to give more of a official, opinion on it. But when you're stressed, that means your sympathetic nervous system is on overload. Your blood is pumping, your blood is pumping, your blood is pumping, your blood is pumping, right? But your blood vessels get smaller. That's when you're receiving the stress as a threat and not a challenge. You feel threatened. Oh, I see that Trump doesn't pay taxes. It's a threat. You stressed out, but you don't know the tax code, right? He didn't do anything illegal. He just did something smart, right? You're stressed, but as you're stressed, your blood vessels get smaller. So like that's why when you're angry, you tighten up. When you get pumped, you get tighten up. So your blood vessels are getting smaller, but you're pumping out more blood, as opposed to receiving that stress as a challenge. Like when you get excited, you open up. When you smile, you open up. So your blood is pumping just as hard, but your blood vessels open. You give it more room. So that's why high blood pressure literally kills us, because of the things that we eat and the things that eat at us, right? That's where the mental health is very, very important, because your blood vessels are literally squeezing tighter while trying to give yourself more life, but you are literally restricting that life, right? So we need to learn how to master our parasympathetic nervous system, right? How to calm down, how to alleviate, how to accept the challenge and not the situation. Everything is not a threat, right? And especially amongst us. I've been in this city now just about 14 years. I literally offhand, like I can probably only think of like one white person that killed a black person. It'd be us killing us. Like literally, you feel me? And we'd be mad at them. Like just imagine if we went 1 year not killing each other. That'd be worldwide news. DC didn't have one killing, and like that's not realistic. You feel me? That's not realistic. Maturity. Maturity has nothing to do with age. Maturity doesn't come into the point that you accept responsibility. For me, that didn't hit me until 29. I know it didn't hit just until about 28. And when y'all can speak on it whenever it hits you. But yo, it was nobody else's fault but mine. Right? Nothing that happened before matters. We see plenty of stories of millionaires today, millionaires and billionaires. Over 95% of them are self-made. Less than 5% are heirloom, people that were given it to. Half of them came from sleeping in their car. homeless, right? They figured it out, right? So maturity doesn't come until the day that you accept responsibility. And also, like Jess said, like you may bust your behind, like all of us, and we may never make it, right? But little G will get the results. Ava will get the results. Billy will get the results. Shorty will get the results. And whatever comes from Jess, Pizzle, and KG, they'll get the results, right? We want them, undoubtedly, right? But it may take all this time to get there. It's like oftentimes we get stuck at level one. I need to pull that back up because we're so focused on how unfair it is. I did what they did, but they got this. Or how come they get to raid the Capitol and we don't? Yo, should nobody be raiding the Capitol? It don't matter if we. There's no reason to do so. The best way to fight the power is to get a Wall Street bets group and let's get this bread. The money is how you fight the power. You know, it don't matter who gets to do what and all this other kind of stuff, right? So it's not about you, right? Delayed gratification. And because we didn't get the head start, we often forget that now at least we have the chance to start, right? They're not going to give us extra, but like, yo, y'all can start. No, but your LLC, your paperwork got to be right. Damon John always talks about that. He says the typical black business fails because they do not have the proper legal structure, right? You can sell 1 million shirts and hypothetically you didn't charge sales tax. Then you get smoked 2 years later. You don't got a mill off of that 3 mil you made to pay the government. Now your business is done, right? Or you just got an LLC and you're not filed as whatever the 1, 2, 3, 4 ways to be able to get write-ups, right? Or you got this big home and you don't realize that just off of your lifestyle, you can make your income look like your low income and get the same breaks that they give out for the poverty taxes, right? We don't know the system because we get caught on the fact that it's not fair. Like we mad at Trump for not paying taxes when he did the same things that we could do, you know? And we get mad that school doesn't teach you that. It's not school. School teaches you how to learn. It teaches you how to learn. And most of us don't take the advantage of the opportunity to learn how to do so we can learn how to apply it for ourselves. Like even if we want to be a rapper like Russ. Russ make his own beats. He write his own songs. He run his own business. He do everything himself. Or Cole, like own your royalties, right? Or after you retire, you learn the game, like start a tour bus company, right? You got to be able to learn about what you're doing. And I think it was G that said this. I think all of us in our culture and including me, we don't listen to people who don't have results. We don't listen to people who don't have results. So I think that's one big reason why we don't listen to our parents, right? That doesn't mean that you shouldn't, but just that was something that stuck out to me. It's like, yo, we don't got results. Why would I listen? And like a lot of us as parents and teachers, we teach instead of model. You know, y'all need to be go reading y'all books. I ain't never seen you read a book, mom, dad, uncle, whoever's telling you that. Or y'all need to go start a business. Mom, dad, parent, uncle, teacher, where's your business? You can be anything you want to be. Well, how come you complain about what you're doing every day, right? It has to be modeled. And the more that we get results, like the results that we're pursuing, more people will listen. Like I can borderline guarantee when we're doing this podcast 10 years from now, it's going to be way more viewers. We're going to talk about the same stuff because we're going to have results. We're going to be in the office, the studio going to look sweet, or we're going to be in front of the big crib, or we're going to be with 100 kids, or whatever the case may be. We'll have the results of like, yo, that's why I love showing it now is to show the journey. I'm telling y'all can do it. Y'all don't have to have everything. There was 6 of us, split the however much for the StreamYard. I think it was a couple hundred, or I don't know, whatever it was, split the cost, boom, you got a podcast. Buy a camera. This camera was like $30. Boom. The computer got a mic. You got a podcast. All you got to do is show up and do it. You know, but the more we get results, the more people are going to listen. And then lastly, before we continue, whoever else wants to jump in, it's very, very important to get back to the topic is that we stop immersing ourselves in entertainment and start and continue to immerse ourselves in information and inspiration. Information and inspiration is far more powerful than entertainment. Far more powerful. That's where the investing comes in. You got to be informed, right? That's where you learn that saving is for losers. Outside of your emergency rating day, like 6 months or whatever you have, yes, you need that in case you get smacked with a virus some medical bills or life, or you total your car, you need a new whip. Yes, you got to have that, right? But beyond that, you got to be able to turn your money into more money. And that's only going to come with information and inspiration. Once again, back to my grandmother. And by no means am I bashing her. F no, right? It's just a powerful conversation. I was telling her about the stock market. She's like, whoa, that's like so scary, intimidating. That's why I've never done it. I was like, well, Mama, I'm like, when have you learned? I never learned. Like, I was just too scared of it. Like, like we stopped right there. Like all these years, like she could have put $10 in years ago. She could have X, Y, Z, right? And once again, I'm not blaming her, but powerful confirmation to things that help me take responsibility and to share with people. It's like we get stuck on because something is difficult, we don't do it. Yo, to be able to write a rap, to get 30 hood dudes together, to all get together, to shoot a video, edit it, the whole squad, know the bars and all that, that's not easy. That's just where we put our time to. So we got to immerse ourselves in information and inspiration. And number one, accept the challenge, not the situation, and let go of all the unfairness. Because we have the ability. We just got to go at it with intensity and consistency, and beyond consistency, for the long duration of time. Because things don't take a day, a week, a month. Things take decades, right? Changing a culture is going to take multiple decades. It's going to take scores or whatever the next word is going to be. It's going to take time. So you got to dominate every single day to break this cycle, because the opportunity is there. We just have to take advantage of it. That's my closing. What you thinking, Mace?
Good morning, everybody. So I think everything you said, Malk, you kind of hit it spot on, right? The only thing I do want to go back to one thing that you said, because I want to make sure it's addressed from the less chemical point of view, but like the stress, that chronic stress and that acute stress is so like real, especially in the Black community. We don't really acknowledge or perceive the importance of it. So when you go through acute stress is like that short term, you're stuck in traffic and you got to get to work, you're late. That's acute stress, right? And chronic stress is where you are dealing with something over a long period of time. But what we don't realize, and I can speak for myself personally as well, I had to kind of learn this, is that the acute stress adds on and you can become chronic stress, which will then affect your mind, your body, your soul, everything. And you have to be aware of that, because we're at a place right now where we all go, and we just don't really accept or process what the stress looks like, especially in the Black community, to be honest. Especially for Black men, because we kind of take things on. We're supposed to just take it. And in reality, we're not. We're supposed to, we're human. We're supposed to process it, internalize it, and let it go and move forward from it. But that's something that we have to learn to do, because it wasn't taught to us generally.
Okay, so what do you offer as solutions to those kinds of stress?
For solutions, depending on what type of stress it is, I definitely would say consider, your working environment, consider your personal life, consider who you're around, being able to acknowledge when you feel those types of things. Like I know for me, I can't deal with an unorganized supervisor, right? Like I can't deal with it because I'm an organized person. So in theory, that stress comes from workplace, right? And that workplace environment now becomes, in my mind, toxic. Regardless if I say it or not, it becomes toxic. And then I start operating like that. So I would say acknowledging it first and knowing your triggers for these types of stresses or for these type of stressors is the important part, number one. And then number two, actively putting in a coping skill to acknowledge or push past the trigger. So for me, again, if my supervisor is super unorganized, I then, to make me feel better, I will be extra organized, right? Like I will do things to a T and then go over it with them, almost kind of like coaching them up of how I need to be kind of like supervised. And they don't really realize it usually, but it kind of helps them out in the long run too. So that's something like for me personally that I'll do. So acknowledging what it is, processing through what it is, and then also creating a coping skill that you can utilize in that moment. Mine is probably a little easier because it's just like work, but even with home life, if you get stressed about, I'll give you another example. This is a big one for me, so don't laugh. I don't like going to a grocery store. It like stresses me like
all the way out. Like it's too many aisles. I go in with a list. I'll come out. Oh no, I won't go in with a list. I'll go in with what I want in my mind, and then I don't get it because I'm so stressed about it, and I just leave. Right? And then I get home, I'm like, damn, I forgot this, I forgot that, I forgot that, I forgot that. So I had to learn to process through that, and I had to learn what I needed to do to get the groceries that I needed. Right? So I created a list. I created a checklist of everything I needed. I added up my totals in my mind. I knew what I wanted and how much it would cost at the total before I even got to the store. Then I get to the store, I'm hitting the aisles. Boom, 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 boom. I'm back at checkout. So instead of it taking me 2 hours because I'm stressed, it's taking me 45 minutes. And it's just a simpler kind of move. And then I continue that and I continue that. And then I get to a point where I don't really need a list because I know what I need. And it's kind of habit at that point. But you have to acknowledge what it was. The grocery store stresses me out. And why? Because I'm used to going to the grocery store with my mother when we were younger, and we would be in there for 4 hours, and we would come out with like 5 carts and stuff, right? And I appreciate it, but it was just a long time I didn't like it. And now I processed through it, and I created a list because I realized I needed organization for it. So I went in with the organization in my mind of what I needed. I wrote it down. I had my prices and all that kind of stuff, and then I did it, and I wanted to see how it felt, and it felt better. So then I continued to do that as my coping skill for the grocery store. So just kind of acknowledging what it is, processing what it is, and then creating that trigger. Those are like the top 3 things that you got to start to do for whatever is kind of causing that stress in your life. And if you don't know what it is, or if you're not really sure, you can ask. People know, like people that really know whoever you are, like they'll be like, yo, you be like on edge when, X, Y, and Z happens. And then like, for what I do, and it's like, yeah, you do. And then that can kind of help if you need some perspective from someone that's not just you. So that will be my advice for everybody.
So let's stay right there, Mace, because you're still talking at a little bit of a higher level. So let's simplify it. So I'm gonna give you some pushback for the sake of conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the key there is taking action.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like you got to take action on knowing who you are and how to operate to your best.
Mm-hmm.
Like for example, like you a therapist, and say you meet your client once a week or once a month. Those 1 day a month or those 4 day a months, that value is up to you, the patient, more or less totally depending on what you do between the sessions.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
We don't even go to therapy. Right? But I know plenty of people who have been, but they refuse to do the work.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't plan so, you tell me, I put cope and handle it. Like I would say, I ain't the doctor, you are. Your coping mechanism was leaving. When
Mm-hmm.
you got there, you experienced anxiety, so the way that you cope is you continue to leave, and you say you did that repeatedly until you made the decision to handle it. So let me figure out what my issue is. The grocery store ain't the issue, which is I'm not playing for this place that overfloods you with options, and G can speak on it. It's strategically set up to get you to trip out and most likely buy more than what you need.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You can get got and overwhelmed by leaving or just buying it all. Right? And then also, everybody isn't the most cerebral or maybe as professionally and educationally as informed as you are to be able to do the organizing for their instructor. Right? So what is the relevant kind of, speaking generally, what kind of actions do people need to take that struggle that from your experience you've seen that they normally do not take, but they continue to complain about the lack of results, or they continue to complain about the struggles that they have?
I think the biggest thing, or the biggest non-actionable thing that I've seen, is that, especially so I speak from like a client's point of view, right? So when I have clients, I have learned that there are times where they just want to vent and they don't want solutions. And then I've had times where I have clients that they strictly want solutions and they don't need the venting session. They just want to say, this is what it is. How can we tackle this situation, right? And I think sometimes a lot of people get stuck at venting because it's comfortable, because you don't have to change, right? But when you're looking for solutions, it requires introspection and an intrinsic motivation to actually want to change. So when you do that, then it will be uncomfortable, but you become uncomfortable, but you become uncomfortable for resolution rather than just to be complacent. I have a number of clients, to be honest with you, that they're just like that, Malk. They will, we'll have a great session weekly. It's a dope session, right? Great feedback. They receive it. They're doing it well. They're processing it. And then next week it's the same thing. And it's like, well, did you practice what we agreed you were gonna practice? Oh, well, no, I got busy, or no, I forgot, or no, I didn't really want to do it. And it's like, okay, but you see, you're still stuck in the same rut, right? And they usually see that, and they, it takes time. Everybody's different, so there are different levels. But for the actionable piece, I would say that people become comfortable venting rather than uncomfortable in resolution.
Yeah, and that's why I said there's a difference between coping and handling it. Right? I go to therapy because, not me, this is the general person, because I do get to vent. Because I don't have a Jess, a Pizzle, a G, a Mace, KG. So you do need to get it out, right? And you, Mace or your therapist, him or her, or whatever, that may be your space to vent. But that's just coping. Like, that's why people drink. That's why people do drugs. That's why people, I say, maybe this is another podcast, there's a difference between a vacation and a getaway. I believe like vacations got to be earned. Like some people just go for an escape to get away from life, which is fine. Like you don't want to drive yourself to the ground. But then there's other people like that earned it. Like I provide for all these people. Like I'm getting this, and it's a write-off. You feel me? Like there's a difference. But we got to graduate from just venting and coping to handling it, and that comes to you. Once again, that's where the information and inspiration comes in. You may go see Mason, he be like, yo, you depressed. You also got anxiety. You got high blood pressure, and XYZ is hereditary. So you have to read this book, subscribe to this YouTube channel, do your push-ups every day, go have that conversation with your mom, and start pursuing your new job. See you in 30 days. Then they don't do it. You don't want to get better, right? So, no, you do want to get better. You don't need to get better, right? There's a huge, once you need something, the fight is different. That's when you start going on the Just rants. Like Just needs the things that he pursues, he needs it. I need it. I know all of us, the things that we need. Right? There's a huge difference between wanting and needing. That's why E.T. said, when you want it as bad as you want to breathe, that's when you'll be successful. Because you don't want to breathe. Like I can't, if I don't want to breathe, I'm gonna kill myself. Like you need to breathe. So you stuck because you want to. Right? You can go to Mace, right? Get professional help from G, take some nice pictures, even though your family is crazy, call Pizzle and make it look good on the media. Take some classes with Jess, learn how to get some bread. But the key ain't until you, the person, graduate that mindset from want to need. What you got, Josh? I've been seeing you ready.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that I think to play devil's advocate, if my reality is I'm a young person, 15, 18 years old, right? High school age, like what me, you, and Mace have encountered in our journey. If everyone at my house is at home watching TV, if everyone is at home, we eat carry out, we need no vegetables, we don't exercise, right? In my insides, I might feel like something is wrong, but I don't know that something is wrong because it's normal to me, right? No different than the reality for many children for generations at this point has been growing up in a single parent household, right? Now, for those people that have been able to grow up in a 2-parent household, you might have a different view, like, oh man, you missed out. But you don't really know that you missed out because that's all that you knew, having one parent, right? In fact, the environment definitely molds us, right? But it also shapes what is possible, number one. Number two, what I am worth, right? Am I worth a better lifestyle? Am I worth a better health status? Am I worth better meals? Am I worth better conditions? Right? I've had this conversation with Malcolm before, man, because I grew up in an apartment. I went from an apartment to a dorm room. And then somewhere in that process, my parents happened to move into a home, right, with my grandma. But when I would come home from breaks, I'm coming to this house. And in me, it just didn't feel normal. It felt very like I was a fish out of water. This is too much space. Something just is not right. I had been conditioned, right? I had been conditioned. No different than the individual that does 10 years in jail. He comes home, nobody has a place for him to stay, but one person agrees to let him stay on the couch. And guess what? He is overly satisfied with that reality because he had been conditioned to such harmful in a harmful environment or threatening environment that now this satisfies my needs, right? And we just have to understand that is a lens that is very, very real for young and older people, that if you can bring yourself to a place where you're willing to flush that out, right? And you're able to be vulnerable and understand that, hey, while it may have been normal for you, it's not okay, right? Us as humans, we are not meant to be in these conditions, even though they're normal to you. It's not okay not to eat balanced meals. It's not okay not to use your limbs on a daily basis. It's not okay to not question the status quo, right? Because as humans, we don't stay at the size that we are at 5 years old for a reason. We are designed to grow. And yes, we stop at a certain place physically, but mentally, we clearly have a desire to continue to grow because we constantly search for other things to give us satisfaction. So maybe Instagram will calm that. Maybe YouTube videos will calm that. And it'll give me a little bit of a appetizer. But what I really want is to experience and that for that to be my norm, right? And it's being able to come to a place where you have a conversation with a gentleman like Mason, right? Or you become vulnerable enough to have conversation with us, right? I'm gonna lean into the camera on this one. For everybody that's listening, we are regular dudes. Yo, we regular dudes, man. Like, our journey has been different, right? Where we sit at in the seat that we sit in may be a little bit different than the normal thought process. But our beginnings have been no different than yours. You just happen to interact now with a different product, right? Our journey has produced a different product, but it's no different, right? I hear young people nowadays say like financial freedom is not a far-fetched idea. And you see all of these different ads on TV. I make $10,000 a month from home. I make $20K a month just on Amazon, right? And you're like, oh, these guys are like, they finessing. This is advertisement. Until you follow, no different than your therapist gives you a prescription to follow, a prescribed plan. Allow yourself to be led. And maybe you won't have the same outcomes. Maybe you won't have the same reality. You might not make 10K a month, but right now you're making 200 a month, baby. If you happen to make 1,000 a month, you stepping in the right direction, right? Maybe I'm not 200 pounds this month. Maybe I'm 195. My goal is still 160, but my process is proving to me that I'm heading in a right direction. And we have to do a better job, not as people, not as Black, not as minority, as humans. We got to do a better job of surrendering ourselves to other individuals that are in places where we want to be and acknowledging that we don't have the tool set to get us where we want to be or what we believe will satisfy us. There's nothing wrong with that. Because what we do have to acknowledge is whoever we've been following, whatever mold, whatever individual, whatever environmental norms that we've been following have led us to a place of unsatisfaction, right? Like, it's just that simple. I follow what you showed me. I'm not satisfied. It's something inside me, just it's not fulfilled. It just don't feel right. And Malcolm constantly talks about that. I went to school, I got the job. I mean, I got the good grades, I got the degree, I got the job. I wasn't satisfied. Like it did nothing for my appetite. It did nothing for my internal satisfaction. Was I misled? Maybe the prescription that I was prescribed satisfied the people that was leading me. Now that I'm at a place where I can identify my own appetite, I can identify my own needs, I now have to be led by a different group of individuals or a different mold, right? And it's going to take action. The same way you took action or lack thereof to get to a place of unsatisfaction, you have to also replicate that same process when trying to change that reality.
You know, just something you said that stood out to me was when you go into, so when the mindset of like the youth now, right? Like they're very, as much as they think that they're like widespread mindset, like they have an overall like global perspective, a lot of the youth that we work with are like, it's very like neighborhood, right? It's like outside of this neighborhood, if I said, let's go to France, they would be like, what? You know what I mean? Like it's very like, very small, right? And when I came into the system at that point in time, and specifically the school that we're all talking about, you know, a lot of them, like even like to the way I was eating, they would be like, Mason, why are you always eating salad, bro? Like, why are you always like, where's the meat? You don't ever go to the carryout? Can you go to McDonald's for me? I'm like, and like, I got them to the point where they know not to even ask me that because they know it's not happening. Like, I will bring them fruit, or I will give them fruit rather than give them candy. And they would, at first they hated it, right? The first year I was there, they were like, yo, like you're not the cool admin. We don't like you. I'm like, all right, whatever, cool. But then the next year, you know, the same ones that came back, like these seniors and these juniors, they're like, Mason, you got an apple for me, bro? Like I ended up giving them my lunch more than I would be eating my lunch. But they would be trying new stuff. They would be trying chickpea, right? They were like, what is chickpea? I don't like that. Try it. You don't know. They would try it. They would love it. You know what I mean? They would be eating, like they started learning they needed to drink more water rather than going to carry out and getting sodas in the morning, right? Like we started having these kind of conversations, these holistic conversations. And I had to get them to the point where they understood that what you put in your body, regardless if you think so or not, messes with their mental and emotional stability, right? So when you come inside the building and you're completely upset, you're completely mad and you're irritated because it's 7:30 in the morning and I'm asking you to make sure you're good, the reason you're so upset is one, because you're hungry, most likely. Two, because you just finished eating some Skittles at 7:15 in the morning with some soda, or you brought in your little concoction in the concoction we all know in the sandwich bag, right? And it's like, that's cool, but how is that helping your body? And then you wonder why you're hungry in first period, or why you on edge in first period, or why you don't want to answer the questions, or why the teacher's always on your nerves, right? All of these things kind of intertwine, and it's just interesting to see how, if you give them a glimpse, they'll take it and they'll run with it. Like Jess said, if you give them that prescription, they'll run with it, right? But you have, like, it has to be everybody. It can't just be one person. So if it's just me in the building doing that, yeah, I might get like 3 or 4 or 5 that are completely understanding that prescription. But if we had like 10, if we had all of Game 7 in that one building, right? Like the mindset would change for the youth. And then in theory, they will be at a better place than we were when we got to that next level. So I think about 25 and up, right? They'll be at a totally different, like when we were at 25 and up and made that decision, they'll probably be at 20 and they'll be better off than we were, or than we will be. Yeah. But it takes time and it takes that persistence and that action, right? I think that's the hugest thing here is action. Like you have to be able to get them to see, buy in, and then even if they don't understand it, to at least try it. And then usually when they try it, they do that. And that's just as adults as we are now. There are things that Malcolm, like I'll be honest, everybody on here has said, Marcus, look in the stocks. And I'd be like, all right, I'm going to. And I just started like grazing the surface of it. And it's complete overload. But I'm comfortable in being uncomfortable to learn it because I know it's important. And it's something that this whole team has prescribed to me personally. So that's something I'm going to work on. It just takes, you have to be able to be uncomfortable.
Mace, you brought up an amazing point, man, where you were the only individual in that setting giving that prescription, and how much powerful it would have been if young people could go to other adults and get the same confirmation, right? What happens many times in our situations, settings, or environments is we get conflicting information. We get mom telling us this, dad saying this, neighborhood saying this, cool kids saying this, people getting money saying this, Instagram saying this. And I'm young at the same time, right? Of course, I'm going to make a decision to whatever I believe is, number one, probably most attainable for me, right? Number two, probably most familiar, right? Whatever reinforces what I see on a daily basis, I believe is possible for me. And I mean, something just as small as let me choose the apple instead of the Skittles in the school building, that can definitely be confirmed, because guess what? It's like endless fruit available at lunch. After school, we have a meal. Breakfast is, I mean, you know, for those who don't know, schools have essentially turned into community centers, okay? They are family resource centers for everybody, okay? You don't even have to have a child that goes to the school. You can come in and get a meal in the summertime. You understand? And the reality of it is that environment can reinforce what you are sharing, Mason, to your students. The unfortunate part about it is you are with your family longer than you are ever in the school building, okay? And naturally, nature, the human body, does not teach you to question those who you are connected to naturally. You understand? It doesn't make me question and say, hey, am I being taught wrong at home? Right? Is the example being set for me not the best one? Right? Because you're not taught to question the people that you love. You're taught to look at them through the lens of love, trust, and care. Not what's the word I'm looking for, guys? Not through the lens of
like the existential lens, kind of.
Yeah, critique. You're not taught to critique those that you love and that care about you and show affection and think all of these other adjectives. But unfortunately, what I've learned is that for many of us, we have been taught wrong. And it's not on purpose, because people can only teach you what they know. But unfortunately, what is being taught to us on a continuous basis is leading us down dark alleys. You understand? It's leading us down dark alleys. That's why I posed the question. If you're a young person, ask yourself, would you be satisfied with the reality that your family has now? If it never changes, right? If you're in the apartment with your parents, if you're in the house with your parents, if someone's on unemployment, if someone makes 6 figures, just ask yourself if you would be satisfied with that reality yourself as an adult for your eternity. And if the answer is no, you have to seek, you have to, for your own self-satisfaction and fulfillment, you have to seek individuals that have a different reality. And it doesn't mean you're going against your family or it's a negative thing. You just want something different for you. And that's okay, because everybody needs something different, right? I went to the high school, the boarding school with Malcolm at 14 years old. We lived on our own since we were 14 years old, y'all. I needed that. I was prepared for that. Some of my peers, maybe not, right? Their needs were different. I had this fire since I was a young joker, man. You understand? Can you imagine a little big head joker running around with this fire? You got to learn how to contain them. You understand? Or teach him how to use those. Teach what God has given him, because clearly it's natural, right? You got to teach him how to use it properly. So I heard my dad say often when I was young, son, you have everything you need. You just got to learn how to use it right. So now that became the focus, not dampering whatever it is I had naturally. So the lens just has to change. And this is the last thing I wanted to share off our conversation off pain and us having a victim mindset, right? Just to bring that back up to the surface. It is okay to experience pain. It is okay to understand that as people, we have experienced pain on a level that many other cultures cannot identify with. But to bring it back to the topic of this conversation, At what point do we take accountability and responsibility? Is we have to make a shift from accepting and identifying our pain, right? We have to understand what has been done to us historically. Take a step back and ask yourself, how does that influence you? How does that influence how you see life? And then I have to turn that into my passion, right? I have to turn my pain into passion. But then also there's this action step that we're talking about. We can identify that there's an issue when we go into the grocery store. But guess what? If I leave every single time I feel overwhelmed, I don't have groceries in the house, and I'm probably going to order food that's going to harm me. So am I really, really doing anything that is beneficial to me? I got to face this music. I have to. So I have to turn my pain into passion, and then I got to make it happen. I have to have an action step after it. There has to be a review, an intrinsic type of review of yourself. I have to identify what the issues are, but then I have to create an action plan. And guess what? Sometimes I'm not the best person to create an action plan for me because I'm in it. I can't see it. I can't see it from an external perspective. I can't see it from the individual that sees me. I got to get help. And to be honest with you, that's hard, man. That's really hard. We're not taught. We're taught to hide pain in our culture or sweep it under the rug and just keep moving, right? That's or show it in different or expose it in different ways or get it off of us in different ways, right? But we have to understand that the process that we have as people, I mean, it's a harmful cycle, baby. It's a harmful cycle. It breaks my heart. I guess it's obviously me getting older. But like I get emotional now, man, when I see young people pass away, yo. It hurts me different now. Even talking about it, like you know what I mean? Like it really does hurt me. Before I kind of got like I was saddened by it, and then I had a period where I was numb to it. But now I've gotten to a place where, man, like it's so harmful to see young people. It hurts me because do you know what it's like not to be able to see somebody go through the different stages of life and then get an opportunity to get it right? Like you're not giving yourself a chance to get it right, son. You're not giving your chance you're not giving yourself a chance to get it right, daughter. You're supposed to stumble in the beginning, but you're not supposed to stumble as much as y'all stumbling, right? You got to understand that our environments are very similar to war zones, right? So I get we're talking about an entire conversation, an entire culture of young people that are self-medicating. But don't criticize. Baby, look at the conditions that these jokers is living in. You understand? And this is a tall statement. I'm sorry if this harms anybody. But the thought of other cultures living in the reality that we do causes many of them to commit suicide. The thought, I'll never forget this. Us being from New Jersey, 9/11 happened. And for most people, 9/11 was the beginning of the bust that we saw in 2007. Okay? It was the beginning of the downturn that we had economically. Okay? In 2001, I believe that's when 9/11 happened, was in 01. And in 2007, 7th grade, it was 01. 2007, I was in high school. There was a large amount of Caucasian people jumping in front of New Jersey Transit trains. At the thought of living without our daily reality is to have a lack of resources, a lack of help, having to downsize, having to move into neighborhoods that are not safe, right? The reality that we live in every day. Just the mere thought of that is so overpowering and so overwhelming that I'm willing to jump in front of a train or drown my babies in the tub. You got to understand that people are self-medicating for that same thing that you were scared of. We got kids coming into our school buildings and their friends is getting murdered. And guess what? It's not a surprise to anybody because people knew it was coming. It happened before it happened. They were dodging being out in the street, staying out the way for a number of weeks or days before that happened. So the buildup, the acute stress,
right? That Mace was talking about. The acute stress that happened with whatever the issue was, or the beef, or the back and forth was acute, and then it became chronic. So much to the fact that now, man, if I'm 13, 14 years old, man, I clearly don't have no coping skills. My family's been struggling with the same reality. My family has been getting killed over the same neighborhood beef that my best friend just did. So what am I gonna do? I'm gonna roll a J. I'm gonna sip codeine, right? I'm gonna do whatever I can do that is prescribed to me in my environment that's normal, because that's not looked at as a bad thing. You don't gotta look for weed when you grow up in environments like that. You don't gotta look for it, right? You don't gotta look for prescription pills. You don't gotta look for codeine. It's readily available. No different than potato chips. Seriously, y'all, seriously. So please understand that if we are not going through a process, I don't care what age you are, man. If you're young, make the decision that what you don't want in this life. Sometimes you don't have to identify what your passion is. Just decide what you don't want. I'm telling you, because that's what first started with me. I decided I didn't want certain realities. And these jokers giving me an opportunity to experience something different. I don't even know if I want that, but I know I don't want this.
Undoubtedly. Great comments, Jess. And you said what I wrote down. And I was thinking of the kids, but I didn't think of like the kids not having control. You know, like they kind of gotta go through what they go through until they reach more or less a certain age, right? So it only takes one person though in the family to change everything, right? So for y'all kids or y'all young adults, you gotta be the one to break it. You know, like you just have to accept the pressure. And something that I say is it ran in my family until it ran into me. Welcome to the smoke show. You feel me? Like y'all eat all that stuff. Like I've been telling my family all week. Like another thing with my grandma, she having health issues. You know, she's an older lady. And everybody talking about, well, it's what she eats. Right? Well, part of that is she cooking for the family, make herself a plate. So let's not pressure her to stop eating XYZ. Let's all stop eating it. And let's tell her to make something else that we want. You know? And they were like, Malcolm don't eat nothing. We gotta make him, y'all, don't worry about it. Y'all just eat before I come there, yeah? I'll eat before I come there. You know, because I'm gonna be here as long as possible for sure. You feel me? I'm gonna be on the court with him until 40. You feel me? I'm gonna be in the mix. Like I'm gonna be actively with him unless something that I don't control like happens. Right? So I always say it ran in my family until it ran into me. Right? You have to be that guy. You have to be that girl. And I don't know her whole family, but y'all always see me talk about Agnes. That girl gonna change her family. And clearly, the woman that she is, she got a good family. Right? She don't got no back. That little girl right there, right? And she's not American. That's a big reason why, right? That young lady is gonna change something because she holds herself accountable. Like I always tell the story how she would cry when she get a 99. If she did not get 100, it was unacceptable. It's unacceptable. And coming from the zoo of a school that we worked in, she made it to school, right? She running track and she got straight A's. Something's going to come out of it. And I will also say, just prepare for the opportunity. Because most of the opportunities in this world for young people, believe it or not, it's much more opportunities given away in the hood than it is in the affluent areas. Because a lot of them don't need it. They done created them for themselves. They're like, I ain't worked in that many schools, but they come into school and it's all these posters up on the spot acceptance. You feel me? Write this 300-word, not even an essay, paragraph for a full scholarship. All right? Or just have perfect attendance and here goes 10 G's. Like you pass with a 64. Like there's no reason at the minimum not to graduate. Just prepare for the opportunity. So I always tell this story about when I was in the 7th grade, beginning of the school year, and we in class, and the principal came in class like, yo, Malcolm, and other person who I will not name, y'all come with me. dang, like usually back then the principal mean you in trouble. Like, you did something. What I do? I'm thinking like, what I do. So we walked to the office. Like, dang, we in the office. He just got his jacket, a suit jacket. Then we walked upstairs to this classroom. No kids, all adults. And it was like all white. Oh, like our school was 99.99999% black. Students, staff, faculty, visitors, like it was always black. I was like mostly women too. But it was the people from the program, seeds, right? That helped us do the Saturday program, the weekend program, the summer program, and then helped me get 200 G's to go to high school, right? But it was something that I was already doing that made them choose me when they came in that room. Now, I did have the benefit of parents who didn't figure everything out, but they was like, you're going to be educated, and you're going to do your homework, and you're going to get good grades, right? A lot of that came from them, right? And especially from my father's parents who were both educated, you know? So it wasn't just something I picked up, but as a kid, you just got to be prepared for that opportunity. And I tell the stories of the people that I ran with on my block and my surrounding blocks. One has been incarcerated now for 15 years. Didn't have the best family relationship. Got caught up in a lot of drama where two people lost their lives. Another one survived a bullet hole this size in his chest somehow, right? But he survived, thank God. And a lot of drugs and stuff. Another one got killed at the basketball courts. And another one committed suicide and took one of his family members along with him that day. Those are the people I was with all the time in my neighborhood, right? And what all that stuff happened while I was going to school, right? So it's nothing to say. Like I still could have been a good person, but I would ride in the car with them. What's to say that I wasn't in the car when we got jammed up? Or what's to say that I wasn't with them with the people they shot, started shooting back, you know? But I was prepared for that opportunity, you know? So all of the young people, just be prepared. And you might have to perform on a trash team until you get chosen by a good team. Like, I'm kind of dating myself, but look at Corey Dillon. He played on the Bengals for years. They was trash, right? But then free agency, he got traded to the Patriots. He won a couple ships. Matthew Stafford, Detroit, trash, right? Now he on the Rams. They like an automatic contender. Anthony Davis, Pelicans, trash. LeBron, yo, come on over here. Let's get this shit. Chris Bosh on the Raptors, trash. And come on over to Miami with me and D Wade, trash. I can't remember what team he was on first. Right? Never had a teammate speak to him in his language, turned him into a dog, started winning ships, right? So just be prepared for the people that are there to come help you when it comes time to help you, and they look through that list for them opportunities to give away, that you're on that list to be qualified to take advantage of the opportunities. And I know it's hard. Like I always say, the problem, at least with the school system, is the parents. Because like you see Tony doing XYZ, and then you meet mom or dad, they doing ABC. I had one, I know y'all probably all heard this before. It was a mom of a ninth grader. Oh, I don't care if he come to school high. He smoked that J with me. It's like, yo, go ahead, go back to class, bro. Just go get some water. You got the munchies, get a snack. You can turn in your work late. It's like literally nothing you could do. So even though you were a kid, it comes down to you. You can do it. Like Jess said, we've been doing this since 12, right? But our parents did put us in that situation. So we did have that luxury. But if you're a kid, it's really just up to you, because as crazy as it sounds, like those years matter more than you think, because it puts you in place for the next step, place for the next step, place for the next step. And then when you feel behind, you feel like you can't do it. Especially like women. I told y'all a couple of weeks ago, when Jay-Z said 30 is the new 20, that was only for men. Women don't see that because of their biological clock, you know? And they don't realize too, like if you're healthy, you can actually extend that clock. They do have a clock. Don't get it twisted. I ain't saying they don't. Like we said in the beginning, we don't treat our bodies like a machine, and like Jess went on his rant about, to be as prepared as possible for life. You know, so every step matters. But Pizzle, what you got? You've been quiet, and then we'll close it out.
No, I mean I'm just listening. I think one of the key things that you kind of touched on just now was like being prepared for the opportunity, right? You got to be prepared in order to even be identified. And when you find yourself being prepared, you actually exhibit a lot of little key traits that make you be able to be identified and pulled out, because you're already moving in that particular line. So I think that kind of stuck with me kind of hard. And yeah, I mean, I 100% agree.
No doubt. And I also like to say one thing too on the other side. We just had a conversation with a friend of the team yesterday. You can have your parents and they can be great, and you can still have anxiety, depression, and everything else. We had a conversation with a friend just yesterday. He was like, "Yo, like, my pops want me to take over his business, but I don't want to do that business. I have no interest in it. But what I do want to do is in like the same field, but it would be another branch. So I want to tell him like, yo, we can come together and just make it bigger. But I don't want to do those things. So don't think like we're not only targeting these things to like kids from the hood and kids with nothing. This is a people thing. You got to be at peace with your own man and at peace with your own woman and get out there and do your thing. So you can have well-to-do, good, caring parents, and it may not be your mission. You still have to find your own peace and go do your thing.
And especially being like uncomfortable with the hell uncomfortable with what you're going through at the current moment, because you gotta realize, like, you know, a lot of times I heard the story when you guys talking about like the high school kids and being able to differentiate like what's good and what's bad. Though you might have nothing but just crap people around you the whole life, you know, in your head there's a little bit in your head that kind of says, yo, this isn't right, or this isn't the correct path. So if you ever want to know how far to get in your future, you should look at your past and look at the people who have already been there, and they can tell you exactly where they're going to lead you to. So,
very true, very true. Anything in closing, Mace, Jess?
I just want to reiterate the same thing that we've heard over and over. We are the sum total of the closest 4 or 5 people that we spend the most time with. And I just want to share that it's okay if those people need to be swapped out throughout different stages of your life, because what will satisfy you is different throughout different stages of your life, right? We don't really have the choice when we're young. Those closest 4 or 5 people are who God gave you just through birth, right? But life will show you through different things, confirmation or lack of confirmation internally, what's going to satisfy you. And we live in more or less a global environment now that we have social media and all of these different avenues, right? So you may not physically be able to develop a relationship with someone because of where you live or whatever it is, but there are no barriers any longer. So please know that, young and older people, right? It's not too late to change your entire trajectory, older people. You 60 plus, you a baby boomer, right? You a grandma, a great grandma. God still got you here, right? You can change your entire trajectory. No different than the MLK conversation. I hate to do this because it's gonna stir up a whole nother conversation, but just for this example, MLK, obviously, like we know, if you do some more research like Malcolm shared, the US government was found guilty for assassinating him. However, the presentation is very different, right? You have to understand that the US government made a decision to assassinate a man who they saw as a threat. That is the reason for assassination. However, what was presented to the public was that this man had a dream and he should be admired. 2 different realities. And we have to also understand that Martin Luther King grew from that I have a dream speech. He didn't have a dream when he died. He had another America when he died. Take a step back and watch that speech, the other America, right? So you have to understand that what we are all presented with in life, we have an opportunity to either accept or deflect, right? And if you are going to deflect whatever you are presented with, you got to substitute it. You got to accept something else after that, right? Because we cannot lean on our own understandings. Say it in the Bible, and life tells us the same thing, right? We have to allow ourselves to be led by people who we can, number one, trust. And for young people, it's usually proof in the pudding. They have to have proof of their success or lack thereof for young people to follow them. So understand that young people, that's a part of y'all reality, but also understand older people That's what's fueling attention of young people, okay? So that means you really got to get to it. You really, really have to get to it and produce some product for whatever you are prescribing to young people, right? Going back to what Malcolm said about modeling.
What you got, man?
So, for me, I think so. Just I appreciate you because I was about to go on a tangent, but you took it there. I was like, all right, no, let me bring it back. But I do want to acknowledge, and it's kind of been on my heart to just say it because it was brought up to me, and it was someone asked a question for feedback a couple of days ago, and I thought it was a good thing, and then I saw the topic was pain. The question to me in closing was, in short, was that they said, well, Marcus, is it if I am doing this thing or this new endeavor out of the motivation because of the pain I experienced in something previous, does that mean I'm being vengeful or I'm not letting it go or I'm not processing through it? And I thought it was a great question because I never kind of thought of it like that. I personally feel like it doesn't matter, right? But I let him kind of like get it all out and give more understanding and more information. And the feedback for him, and I'm just saying this because I want someone else to think about it too, if they are considering, is that when you're changing your pain can create motivation, right? Pain typically should create motivation, no matter what the type of pain is. If you get hurt in the gym, not to lift the way you lifted in the gym again. That's motivation to do it right? If you fail a test, like Malcolm, you talked about Agnes. If she were to randomly get what she never would, she got an 80 or like a 70, she's studying probably overtime. Like that's never happening again, right? Because she felt the pain and she didn't enjoy it. But when we create new things from tragedies, that does not mean that you haven't let it go. It just means that you've readjusted the energy and you've put it into a positive light. So it is okay to go through a bad experience or a bad situation and then build off of that bad experience or that bad situation to create positivity. So I just want to leave people with that because that's so important for us to understand.
No doubt. And to go off of what Jess said, this is a whole nother conversation that we're not having today. But we got to stop, as parents and grandparents, we got to stop leaving liabilities and start leaving legacies. Right? There's no reason, like, we should be having, it's like in our community, like for that person that get it, it's like it flips. Like you become the parent of your parents. And they're calling you for help and like what do I do? And things are falling apart. Like, that's my dad's job, or that's grandfather's job, or mom, whoever that should be. Every family is different, but quote unquote, like so many of us, especially that make it first, like you gotta deal with everything you got, plus everything they love. So then like you can't even go through the true process of feelings and things you gotta get through of the grieving or of handling the pain or something, because you gotta hold everything together. So we got to make it a priority to leave a legacy and not liabilities. And then one of my students the other day, this is pretty powerful because it came from a younger Caucasian boy. He said, yo, Mr. Malcolm, he said, yo, the government think they slick. I'm like, what's up? He said, it's a reason that they push Martin Luther King on everybody and not Malcolm X. I said, yo, I said, we on the school system, so I ain't gonna say nothing back. I say, but you're right. But you're right. But maybe that could be a Black History Month-ish kind of topic for the future. Go ahead, Jess.
I just got to make a connection, a biblical connection to what you said about families not leaving liabilities and instead leaving legacies, right? God says that a good man and a man that satisfies him leaves an inheritance to his children's children, right? And if we begin to make that a mission, and it doesn't mean it has to be anything huge, it can be whatever is attainable for you and what life has given you. But if we can focus on leaving some kind of inheritance, right, even if it is just a different culture within our family, then we've satisfied God more than not, right? And if we want to make it just an even level example, let's look at the like a property, like a home. All right. If me as a parent, or when I become a parent, if I purchase a home, in this example, if I'm going to leave an inheritance to my children's children, it would be through this home. And ideally, I would get a 30-year mortgage over the 30 years, the first 30 years, I would pay it off. I would only be responsible after that for paying taxes and upkeep of the home, right? On top of whatever your regular bills, internet, water, things of that sort. But after the 30 years, ideally, it should be much more of a manageable financial responsibility for all those that come after. And we're talking about the main responsibility of housing, right? Having safe housing, stable housing. We can eradicate that entire reality in one generation or half a generation, 30 years, right? And the outcome of that would be my children would then either decide, hey, yes, I like the neighborhood or the home that my dad chose, my mom and dad chose, and I want to step into this and have much less of a financial responsibility. And hopefully I've grown, right, financially, professionally, or whatever, purpose-wise, to where my income is higher than my parent was because of inflation or whatever it is. And now I can actually create a gap, right? And now I can focus on operating in my purpose instead of survival. I'm skipping all of these other steps just because of the one decision of my parent, grandparent, great-grandparent, right? And we don't understand the power of that. And we don't understand the alarming reality of when you go on Zillow.com, Redfin.com, Trulia.com, and you see these C's, a C, S-E-A, of homes for sale. That's alarming, y'all. That's passing. That is forfeiting generational wealth, generational stability, inheritance, right? It's passing through too many hands. We've completely lost what we should do to satisfy God or satisfy your own internal satisfaction of being able to leave my children in a better situation than I was left in. So please begin to see that as through a different lens. If you see a number of for sale signs in your neighborhood, it's a little bit of a warning. It should be a warning, right? Not to say that you shouldn't move in. It may be an opportunity for you because you see it through a different lens, but it may identify the fact that others in that environment don't see it through the lens that you do. Because I will tell you this, you don't see that change, that reality in neighborhoods like Beverly Hills. You don't see that in Coral Gables. You don't see that in New York City, Park Avenue. You don't see those realities. You see those homes being inherited generation after generation. So now I can sit in a $5 million condo that my grandfather paid $180K for back in the 40s. Golly. And if I do happen to be in a situation where, hey, I need capital for my business, I've fallen on hard times, I can pull out a line of equity on my home and get a $50,000 mortgage, not a $5 million mortgage, right? So it just begins to shape the reality or the possibilities for future generations by making one simple shift in your mind, which is to leave an inheritance for those that come behind me, and that I may not be the one that is able to step into all the blessings because of the decisions that I made.
Yeah, no doubt. And I don't want to fake because I just learned this and I don't know all the details. But if you set your family up in a trust, whoever owns that property, when he or she passes away, their inheritance and or the sale of that property will not be taxed. So you literally just give it away, or you literally sell it and get all the bread you would normally get, plus all the bread stays with you that you would normally have to pay for the God. But you got to read a book, and we like to be entertained and not educated. So a lot of us didn't know that, including myself, until I got to that book. So once again, even as the things that we're saying, go learn them yourself because there is levels. You know, all right, I did what Jess said. I got the house, and now I'm going to give it to my kids. Cool. All right. But did you set it up like your parents own your business too? Because since their income is lower than yours, you treat them like a corporation. Now your tax is super low, even though you're getting all this bread. Like it's so many different levels to it. So go learn. I think that was a pretty powerful conversation today. See you next week. Go make it happen. Peace out.